Okay.
So we don't have to deal with it.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Folsom City Council for March 12th, 2024. Would you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Aquino.
Here.
Chalem Chella.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Rohrbaugh.
Here.
And Kozlowski.
Here, and if everybody will please rise and join me for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any agenda updates?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. There is additional information transmitted for items 1 and 5, as well as a revised staff report for item 5 on tonight's agenda. All of those items have been previously provided to you, and they are also available on the table in the back.
Very good, thank you very much. Okay, scheduled presentations.
Okay, your first item this evening is your scheduled presentation, item number 1. This is a River District Master Plan Citizens Advisory Committee report out. Got it. It just takes a second. You'll be fine.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Robert Goss, representing the Community Development Department tonight. I am the project manager for the River District Master Plan. I'll be doing a tag team presentation with Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, John Lane. So I will open and talk a little bit about the process of where we started, where we've come from. John's going to a little bit in the middle about some of the special things that we're working on, and then I'll close out with next steps. So as you recall, the 2018 General Plan calls out the River District Master Plan as an important opportunity for the city to take a look at several different things. Increasing public access, increasing recreation opportunities, and increasing economic development in the River District. And there are in the general plan some related objectives that apply to this project in terms of city gateway enhancements, high quality design, enhancing Folsom's heritage, and then of course, celebrating, protecting our environmental, cultural, and historical resources. So this is the River District. Folsom Lake is over here on the right side. The American River coming down into the historic district. The Auto Mall is to our south or west on the left side of the screen. This is the Willow Creek recreation area along the lake. This is the Lake Forest Business Center or the Blue Ravine Road Business Center. The courtyard is here. The historic district is here. This is the Lake Natoma crossing. And because it's a 6-mile long district, we have divided it into 3 areas, north, south, and central, so that we could manage all of the information and ideas that are coming out of the process. So the City Council appointed a 24-member Citizens Advisory Committee. Since August of last year, we've been meeting 7 times. We bridged a couple months in November, December because of the holidays, but we doubled up in January, so 7 meetings to date. You can see where we started with introduction, even engaging with state parks, and then went through several meetings of opportunities and constraints. And that's identifying where we see literally opportunities, and constraints can be any number of things, from physical, environmental, cultural, resource. Lots of things can be constraints, but likewise, many things can be opportunities. We have studied general land use concepts related to the courtyard, as well as Rodeo Park, and you'll see a little bit of that work here shortly. And then finally, we've had some substantial citizen engagement, both through the Citizens Advisory Committee, but also online through the Social Pinpoint online engagement tool. So when we opened that up, the Social Pinpoint, by chance, anybody on the council log into that and play around with it? So you did not. So it was based in aerial photography and GIS, so that you could literally hone in physically or geographically on the River District, drop a pin, make a comment. Others could actually like it or dislike it or add to the comment, start a little dialogue there. So it was open for 8 weeks. We had 300 plus participants. We had over 526 individual comments. And then included on this Social Pinpoint webpage, we had a supplemental questionnaire. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then along the process on the city's River District web page, we invite the public to enroll or register for the Constant Contact Group. And we have over 150, I think, Folsom residents and other people of interest in the community, maybe from Orangevale, maybe you have interest in the American River itself and the lake, that have registered. And we reach out to them with each time we notify the Citizens Advisory Committee, we send a notification to the Constant Contact Group as well. The social pinpoint summary, here's where you can see the various comments as we aggregate the kinds of comments that we have received. What sticks out to me, and I think to the CAC, that's short for Citizens Advisory Committee, is the trails and access. It really is in the River District. It's so much about the trails and getting to the water, using the water, enjoying the water. I think it just comes out loud and clear. The other comments are kind of all over the place. They range from concerns about the eagles nesting on the county side of the lake and Folsom lights shining at the eagles. The eagles, I think, nested there after the lights were already there, but still concern about the eagles, concern about some maintenance issues along trails, and so on. But then we have parks and recreation, economic opportunities, and community gathering space. That's your picnic pavilions and things like that. Here's the heat map, the distribution of the comments. Very obviously, it's really centered around the historic district and Black Miners Bar, from the bridge areas, that whole elbow in the river it's very concentrated. It's all beautiful, but that's just some of the most dramatic and beautiful areas of the city, the district, and of course you have so much going on with the historic district there. So in addition to the social pinpoint, the geographic comment tool, we had a little 14 questionnaire that people filled out. You didn't have to, but I think, 165 odd people did. 14 questions, 4 categories: general, recreation, trails and access, economic development. And then here are your top line answers. I'm not going to go over everything, but you can see, and I've provided 3 responses. Those are the 3 top responses for these particular questions. And one thing I'd point out, second question, what new amenities would you support? Events and festivals. You also see that festivals pop up in the third question there. And it's ironically, when I was your Parks and Recreation Director for 14 years, anytime we surveyed the community, festivals always came up very, very high. It's a repeated thing. This community in Folsom likes to come out, hang out together, celebrate, whatever it is, it's time to celebrate. But also, in the middle question, what would bring you to the River District more often? The looped trail connection, that comes up repeatedly. There's a lot of trails there, but they're not all well connected, and there are incredible opportunities to link them up and make loops so that people don't have to walk one way just on one side of the river. There may be ways to loop them and bring them back different ways. And that is an attraction for other people as well, not just our residents. And then notably, the bottom question, where would you prefer to see economic development? There's definitely a strong voice out there that's very concerned that the city is doing this River District project in an attempt to develop state parkland. That's certainly not our intent, and that came out there. But the historic district and the corporation yard were certainly acknowledged as places where other economic development activities could occur. So there's your introduction on process. I'm going to bring John Lane up here to talk about the Citizens Advisory Group work, and then I'll come back and close it out. So there's that.
Take the pointer.
And bottom arrow there.
Perfect. Thanks, Robert. Good evening, Mayor, council members. So what you've just heard is anybody in the community can come on the internet and they posted. What I want to talk about is the 24 people that you assigned to work together to get their opinions and thought in moving forward with a master plan. And we're lucky enough to have several of the community members that are part of that commission. And then I just also want to point out that there are people who come and sit on a regular basis to these, and we have several people in the audience tonight who aren't even on the commission but attend every meeting. So I think we get a really good cross-section of opinions based on that 24 people that we have. And so what I want to show you is some of the work we've done this first slide, really what it shows is what we've done is we asked the members to kind of just split up randomly amongst tables, and each table would get the same map. And then we said, okay, we want to understand your ideas, so they get blank Post-it notes. And then they would talk amongst themselves. So typically there's 5 people at a table or so. And then they would talk about what they think and what they understand of, now remember we split it into north, south, and middle. So one meeting we would talk about the south, another we would talk about the middle, and then another one we would talk about the north. And so what you end by the end of the meeting is a lot of Post-it notes with a lot of ideas that have been flushed out through conversations. Then what we do, let's push the button. What we did was we took all those things, and this is where the consultant comes in, and Robert, is we try and then you find kind of a coalescence of ideas in certain places. Things kind of come together. And so really what we're showing here is a few of the ideas that come together. So in the blue, right, highlighted by kind of the red bold strike would be, for example, in the south area, there was a lot of agreement that there should be Native American interpretation, education about nature. So this is down toward the aquatic center. This is, there's a lot of open space down there. When we move closer to the center, you're more into the historic district. So here, there were a lot of conversations and coalescence around ideas about trails at the powerhouse. And I'll show you that. I'll get a little more detail here in a second. Safety and connectivity. Again, we all can see it as we live here that the Rainbow Bridge and the Truss Bridge get a lot of traffic. So there's a lot of discussion about how do we make that better. And then if we go to the north, which is essentially kind of the Truss Bridge is the line there, and then you go toward the prison, then we get into the canal trail. How do you do something more with the canal trail? And if those who haven't walked the canal trail, I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the more beautiful spots on the American River along Lake Natoma. Then, of course, there's Rodeo Park. And then the Truss Bridge itself and access to it. So this is just a few ideas, but let me show you what that looks like more visually. So this here is the upper north area. And so the areas in yellow were where the group really, all the tables were really coalescing around this idea. So this is the canal trail on the kind of the middle. Oh, here, I got the pointer. So we've got our canal trail here, which goes all the way up, partway up to the prison. And this is where you're up along the river and looking back at the bridges. Then there's this area here at the Truss Bridge, and if you ever walk down there, you'll see there's a bunch of flat area there in the trees. It's graded and ready right now for a park if you wanted it. And so there was a lot of people, understandably, that were focused on that. But again, this whole interpretation, a lot of discussion and sensitivity among the group about the native peoples that were here before us, and somehow taking whatever we do here with the master plan and not ignoring that fact. And so, and then same thing with our history with the canals. You've got the canal and you've got the powerhouse and all that. So the colors here, this is an important color because one of the groups that are part of the commission are state parks. So state parks is part of this. So is the Bureau of Reclamation. We also have at least one of the managers for state parks that attends every meeting. So this, when we see green here, this is really lining up with already the plans that they have here now. So this group is not necessarily coming up with different ideas. In many cases, it's really augmenting and putting, a real sensitivity to what the state parks has already said they want to do. And so in a case like here, a yellow, it's not that it's diametrically opposed or anything. This is here, though, is just where it perfectly lines up. And here, the state parks, we've met with state parks. We make sure that we're in full collaboration with them, and so they understand what we're doing. And so far, they've been very supportive. Now, I'm not saying that they approve everything here. That would be important to not misconstrue here. But we're not throwing any red flags here, and that's important because ultimately what we want to do, and this commission wants to do, is not run afoul unless we really believe that it's something that's super important. So if we go to the south sub area, we see the same kinds of things. Back to, this commission is coming up with many of the ideas that the state parks already has in its master plans. Go back to the interpretation, the Chinese heritage here, the trails. So the theme is pretty constant in both the upper and the south sub area. And then the center, this is where this historic district already is now. There's this concept of trying to connect the trails. That right now, if you walk around out here on the trails, a lot of them end and they don't really connect through. Sorry. And so there's a lot of conversation amongst the commission about how do we make these trails work so that when people come to visit, that ultimately they'll find a trail network that supports kind of flow through and loop trails. There also, it talks about docks and boathouses, their improved traffic flow. So we see that many of the conversations, they fall, some of them purely within the state parks realm, and some of them purely in the city realm. And that's really what this master plan is. How do we fold the two together in partnership with state parks? And so then one of the things we needed to talk about was the courtyard. So notice the courtyard didn't show up on those. And so we recognized the courtyard is such a special place that it really demanded like an entire meeting. So we treated the courtyard a little bit different, and we had an entire meeting on January 10th just about the courtyard. And so we did it a little bit different than the blank Post-it notes. What we did is we wanted to talk about what did people think of as uses for the courtyard. Not a blank Post-it note, but what we gave was we gave them colors and ideas of what that might look like. So we said, think about residential, think about mixed use, think about entertainment, and so on. And we gave them pictures, and we educated them a little bit before unleashing the map on them. And we said, let's not put Post-its, let's put colors. Just stick with colors of what you think and what the mix might look like. And so these are the colors that we ended up, and I'll show you what ultimately this kind of looks like. We gave them the maps, and we let them start drawing colors that match those same things that I showed you, those land uses. So we get, park, we get visitor center, we get, this team right here was talking about mixed use here, entertainment. So we start seeing that people are willing and actually really would like to see something happen here, and it's coalescing around these land uses. So after the first meeting, then we came back and we refined because we found common themes. Then you start refining it, and you start saying, okay, we heard a lot of things. We heard about entertainment, we heard about mixed use, we heard about maker spaces, things like that, parks, and we also heard about residential, and how do you match all those up to the existing community? And what's happening here is we're still in progress with this. We're still refining this concept, but you can see that this 24-member group is really thinking constructively. And there's a lot of different ideas, but everyone is working collaboratively together on the courtyard. So you'll see more. We've still got more work to do at the CAC on this concept. So we're doing a similar thing with the rodeo park, similar to the courtyard. The rodeo park is also very special, and it's a really a tough nut to crack because of its transportation, the circulation, and everything else. But we also recognize it's a unique opportunity, especially when you combine it with the zoo and the rodeo and the park there and the soccer. How do we solve that one? How does the CAC come up with something useful that the city can use there? And so we start doing the same thing that we did with the courtyard. We start putting colors on it and ideas and fleshing out how would that work? Well, if we did that, how would that work? And we'll deliver ultimately it's not zoning, but this is what the community, at least the CAC, would recommend for a specific concept for the rodeo. And this also is still in progress. Our very last meeting, in fact, ended with these concepts. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Robert, but that's the CAC, and I'm going to be available for any questions.
So next steps, as John said, we're in progress in both the courtyard and rodeo park. So we're going to continue on that refinement process and testing ideas and figuring out where sensitivities are and the opportunities that we really want to recommend that the city take advantage of. Part of the RRM design group, that's your planning and design consultant selected, part of their scope of work is the delineation of the key sites. And on the right and then the next slide is an example of what we've identified as a key site that we really want to explore with a design concept so that we can illustrate to the community all of this interest in trail connections and continuity and safety. What does that look like in real life? And I think there's some really exciting things that are to come out of that process. And before I get to the outline, another key site, for example, is what's known in state parks lingo as Museum Flat. And it's another opportunity we have down here at the western or southern end of the district to do something unique and kind of special in cooperation with state parks. The master plan will look a lot like those 9 chapters right there. We haven't started preparing it yet, but that's what you can expect to see when we begin to prepare the draft master plan. And as far as our remaining schedule, as I said earlier, we're going to continue our work on the Courtyard general land use concept plans. We're not doing zoning. I think it's really important for you, for staff, and for the community to understand this is general and conceptual, but it's a direction. We're not going to propose zoning through this master plan. In May, we will begin the process of preparing the actual master plan document and the CEQA analysis. That'll go on through the summer, and then late summer, early fall, we'll start public and commission review. We think that we're going to have a proposal workshop with the council. It looks like October. It could be September. I think we want to leave, if we can pick up a couple of weeks here, or maybe a month, we would do it sooner. That way, if you have additional comments or direction to staff, we have time for that, but we do want to get this approved with this council before it changes. That would conclude staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Before the plan changes or the council changes?
What did I say? The plan changes? Did I say that?
Before the council.
Yeah, the council changes. Okay. What I think and what I say sometimes are not the same thing.
It could have meant either thing, the way you said it. That's why I asked. Okay, any questions from our council?
I'll just make a quick comment. Thank you. It's obviously you guys have had some very productive meetings, and I know that we made the committee bigger than maybe was ideal, but I think it was important to have all viewpoints, from people who want a lot of development to people who want no development. And nobody's going to get exactly what they want, so I hope everybody is participating in the process now, and
Very constructive dialogue and no fisticuffs.
yeah, good. Thank you.
That's good.
YK, anything?
Mayor, I want to thank those 24 powerful minds working together. Maybe, Mr. Goss, you are 25th mind, I guess?
Maybe.
Yes. One thing, before we put everything on the consultant, those 24 powerful minds, I saw those faces up there on the picture. When we get to the presentation on the workshops or the CAC recommendation, which ones are the city-driven kind of amenities or the opportunities, or the public-private partnership, private? So if we get some sort of idea, that helps at least me as a council member. And that's why I quoted at the beginning, powerful minds. Doing some extra research in Austin, Texas, this is how they use this one. So that helps us. That was purely driven by the city funds. No, this one was they outsourced it, private, revenue sharing, something like that. It helps us. So I just want to put that out there rather than just a consultant. I want to rely on our city minds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Understood.
that's the great thing. Otherwise, it's fantastic. Thank you.
Anything from down here?
Well, it's apparent you guys have made great progress in the few months that you've been working on it. I didn't hear anything about the zip lining, so I guess that's out of the question. Anyways, great job.
No, it's fantastic.
Just wait.
I mean, those 24 people are volunteers. They're spending hours and hours and hours. Thank you.
Anna, any questions? Okay, well, I think we have, somebody's asked
think
to make some public comment here.
John, was this your card? Was this your speaker card?
No.
Okay. Is it Jennifer Lane?
It's a different John.
We have a speaker
Come on down,
card.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Lane. Sorry, the card said J Lane, so.
We have 2 options.
So, because I'm vaccine, I'm hurting, I don't come to these meetings too often. I'll leave right after I speak. I'm vaccine injured. We don't talk about that, though. So, I'm here because I wanted to make sure Robert got it right, and he left me and others that are in my group out. And I guess I haven't had the opportunity to make a fuss and raise my hand and say, hey, I want a nature center on that land. And on the nature center, on the same land, on top of a water museum, we need to educate people about water. We've been to the museum in Sausalito, and wow, I mean, I've been educated thanks to Deborah Grussel. So my idea is to bring Jim Cagney. I don't know if you guys know him, but he was my boss at Oak Chan. His wife recently died, and I went to his memorial, her memorial, and he asked me, "What are you doing with the city?" And I didn't say I'm working with the city, but I said, I have an idea that we need to push the idea of a nature center on that land. I mean, it's perfect for kids. Effion Nature Center is the only nature center around that we get in cars and go there, or buses. And we spend money there, you know, it's so much per kid to go to the nature center, and we have all that right here. I think the garden club would love to put that area back to its natural habitat that was there before plants, you know, natural plants. I think we have the garden club on board. I met with them when I ran for council several years ago. And I was even thinking of donating my house to the courtyard so the gardeners would have a place to meet and put their garden equipment. My son said, "No, Mom, you can't do that." But what I'm saying is we really need a place. My background is education, as you all know. I don't think the audience knows or the public knows, but I was a school teacher for 27 years in Folsom, 3rd and 4th grade, and my kids would walk in the nature area by Oak Chan that was dedicated for land to learn about nature. There are places to go along that walk that I would tell them, we're going to our outdoor school now. So they couldn't just chit-chat all they wanted. They had to be quiet and listen to the critters, listen to the birds, listen to the animals that are out there. And I think it's time
Mrs.
that
Lane,
Folsom does
you're
the same
over
thing.
your time. Can you
I'm sure.
bring it to conclusion?
But you get the idea. We need it. And it's a moneymaker. I think that the Bureau of Reclamation would be on board with the water. We're working on that somewhat. They would pay for their building, maybe pay for the nature center, so the city wouldn't have to be burdened.
Okay, maybe I
Yeah.
can follow up with a question to Robert and
Yeah.
John.
So, come
Thank
on,
you.
let's make this happen. Thank you.
All right. Maybe just a question to Robert or John. The conceptual plans that are being bandied about for the courtyard area seem to have a variety of potential uses, all living in harmony with each other. Is some element of this, the open space, active potentially? Something like what Mrs.
Yeah,
Lane is talking about?
Yeah, it's part of the process. So a museum-type operation can be in the commercial and visitor serving land use column, or potentially entertainment. It really is yet to be defined. But you can see in the refinements that you'll notice that the mixed use kind of moved out. That wasn't supportable by the CAC. But these blendings, you can see that commercial visitor serving is in there in these concepts in various forms. So it is included in the process.
Okay.
It is not, we're not naming specific uses, we're naming general land use concepts.
Yeah, trying to narrow the
Yeah.
types
Not
of uses.
specific, like
I
it's-
gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So we're not eliminating anything. All right. Fantastic. Thank you. Great work by the committee. I mean,
We're making progress.
it's a challenge to get 24 people to boil out something really useful like this, and it's an excellent bunch of developments thus far. Thank you. All right. Any other questions from the council? All right.
Mayor, just a comment, though.
Yeah, fire away.
Jennifer Lane was talking just now. Mr. Goss, these meetings are open for public, right? If anybody is listening right now, they are interested.
Indeed.
They can always participate and voice their.
The River District Master Plan has its own webpage on the city
Yeah, I
website
just-
under the Community Development tab.
Yeah.
And the meetings are announced there with the agendas and tons of background information of where we've come from and things that are advising the process and our thoughts.
Right. I just want, people who are listening,
Absolutely.
if they're interested,
Yeah.
want to chime in and come based on their tourism and visits, they're allowed to. So thank you. I just want to make that clear. to
John did
everybody.
mention that in his presentation, that you
Yeah.
get visitors that are not a part of the CAC.
Yeah.
And the beginning of
Pardon me.
each meeting beginnings with public comment, which simply they fill out a card and they have a chance to speak to the council.
Yeah.
So and we generally have at least a couple people that do that every meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And importantly, Jennifer, thank you for reminding us that kids need great field trip locations to go to.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 2.
Yeah, your second item this evening is the city manager's fiscal year 23-24 second quarter financial report.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Stacy Tamani, Chief Financial Officer. Tonight's presentation is the second quarter financial report and includes data for the entire first half of the fiscal year and then projections for how we think the general fund will end the year. The first slide here is your general fund summary. It displays your fiscal year 23-24 original budget in the first column, and then the approved budget amendments so far this year. That's $435,000, and that's made up of 3 items. It was $325,000 for a resolution approving the community development grant revenue and expense for their permit center project. And then you had $93,000 for the cannabis tax fund grant approved in the police department. And then there was $18,000 that the council approved to bridge the budget gap for the zoo fence repair. There was ARPA funds that were remaining, but we needed $18,000 more. And then we also have $509,000 worth of ARPA funds that have been spent so far this year. So the revenue gets recorded at the same time as the expenditures. When you add all of that together, you have an amended budget of $109.5 million. We are projecting revenues to be higher than that at $111 million, and then expenditures to be right there at $111 million also, for a total change to fund balance of about a negative $28,000. That would bring your unassigned fund balance down from $22.96 million to $22.93 million. And because of the increase in expenditures, that means as a percentage of expenditures, it goes from 21.2% to 20.6%. So this is a slide that we show every time, and this is going back to 2006. The fund balance is in the blue columns, and then the red line is the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. The city was at about 26% of expenditures back in 2006, and almost all of that was used to get through the Great Recession. That low point was there in fiscal year 11, and we were just under $4 million in reserves. Replenishing the reserves since then was the city's top priority, and that is per the city's financial policies that you will replenish the reserve when it's used. So that took place from fiscal year 12 all the way until about fiscal year 19. And then the reserve dropped back down during the pandemic to $13.8 million, and that was below 15% at that point. The city did use the risk management and the compensated leaves funds to help the general fund in that recovery out of the pandemic, and that money has not been repaid to those funds. So it's sitting here in this general fund reserve. But that has enabled the general fund to keep the unassigned fund balance at about $23 million for the past 3 years. And so you see that fairly flat from fiscal year 22, 23, and 24. As I mentioned in previous reports, the city has been unable to add to the unassigned fund balance since then. So you have this flat level. And the unassigned fund balance as a cash value has essentially stayed flat. But now, because of expenditures increasing, the percentage of expenditures there, the red line, is starting to go down. So even though you still have the same cash value, we've gone from 23.69% in fiscal year '22 down to a projected 20.6%, and that's just in 2 years' time. And so that decline is expected to continue if the cash value stays the same, but expenditures continue to grow. So this is a look at your major revenue sources in the general fund. On the left, we have your current budget for fiscal year '24, and then to the right of that, the projections for each of these categories. Property tax is projected to come in at budget at about $40 million. Sales tax, however, we just had our most recent presentation from our sales tax consultant, that's Avenue Analytics, and they're projecting that sales tax will be flat with what we had last year. So unfortunately, that means a decrease from what we had budgeted this year by about $1.2 million. Transient occupancy tax is projected to come in at budget at $2.4 million. We are seeing an increase in charges for services revenue again this year, and most of this comes from community development. And we've had this every year coming in from engineering revenues related to the Folsom Plan area. This year, they're expected to be over budget by about $500,000. Last year, it was about $800,000. And what happens with this is that it flows through to expenses that you'll see to pay for the contracted inspections that are happening down in the plan area. So when the revenue goes up, you see the expenses going up for this as well because it's passed through. The projection for charges for services also includes Parks and Recreation Program revenues up about $520,000 from budget. This is the last kind of right sizing, I think, of the Parks and Recreation revenues. We had the 3 years after the pandemic of just not being sure of how they were going to settle out. And now we feel that they are at their full level of full recovery. So you won't see this level of increase, we don't think, in the next years unless there was a rate increase for those fees. Licenses, permits, and intergovernmental revenue, the next category there is projected to be over budget by about $1.2 million. $750,000 of this is related to building permit revenue. So similar story as the charges for services for community development, but it's just a different category where this building permit revenue, when it's high like that, gets passed through for additional inspection services. And so we pay those consultants to go ahead and do that. If you didn't have this revenue here, again, you wouldn't have the need for the expenses, but you wouldn't have the revenue either. So they just offset each other. And then also here, we're expecting about $400,000 in intergovernmental revenue from small grants and the intergovernmental programs that we have. Those aren't included in the budget because some years we get a lot, some years we don't get much at all. So when we do have it, it's just something that comes in as an increase over budget. Transfers in are projected to be at budget, and then all other revenue, that last category there, is expected to be up by about $500,000. That's mostly due to getting some better rates on our investments now. As things have turned over, we're now getting that 5% or so, and so that's great for the general fund. However, about half of that interest is actually being earned on restricted SPIF administration funds, so that interest revenue will be restricted as well. Now a look at the sales tax trends. I think I've had this chart now for 5 years. We were just starting to see the flattening line, and it's extended out now for 6 or 7 years. We had a very different growth trajectory before 16, 17, and things shifted very, very significantly at that point. And since then, sales tax growth has averaged about 2% per year. So that's an increase of just $3.4 million over that amount of time. But we've seen expenses grow by $29.5 million during that same time period, or about 5.5% annually. And that's one of the major challenges the city is facing, is that revenue growth from these major revenue sources is not keeping up with the cost to provide services. This next slide here is some additional sales tax information. It comes from our sales tax consultant, Avenue Insights, and they update this for us every quarter. And so it looks back to 2019, when the annual per capita sales tax is at $296. Now for 2023, it's down to $269. And so what this is although the population is growing in Folsom, because on average people are spending less on taxable purchases than they were in the past, that's why we're seeing that or part of the reason why we're seeing that flattening growth in our sales tax revenue. Continuing on to the major expenditure categories in the general fund, we have the same columns as the earlier slides. You have your current budget for fiscal year '24, and then to the right, the projections. We're projecting to end the year at $111.5 million. So it's about $2 million over budget, and we'll go through the categories here. So for salaries and benefits, we're projecting to be under budget by about $3.4 million. This is mostly coming from vacant positions, primarily in fire and police, but other departments have some vacant positions as well. I do believe that fire had 8 new employees start just yesterday, so those savings were there for at least the first half of the year, and so that created some pretty significant savings, about $1.4 million in the fire department. Police has also had some vacancies throughout the year, and so salary and benefit savings at the end of the year are expected at $800,000. However, for those departments, primarily, we're not seeing big savings in their department overall because the savings in salary and benefits is being offset by increased operation and maintenance costs, which you'll see in the next slide. So for general government, we're expecting to be under budget by about $152,000. Police is expected to end the fiscal year under budget by about $21,000. So like I just mentioned in the previous slide, salary and benefit savings of $800,000, but we're seeing that being offset by higher level of expenses elsewhere within their department. And this is something that we're seeing in most of the operating departments, that the costs for services, supplies are up. However, luckily, police did have those savings to offset it, and fire does as well. So fire is expected to end the fiscal year about $560,000 under budget, but like the police department, the salary and benefit savings, the $1.4 million is being offset by increased costs in other areas of the department for a total savings of $562,000. The Community Development Department is projected to end the year about $1.4 million over budget, so this is directly related to the increased revenues that we just went over in the other slides. That was in charges for services and in your building permit categories. So if you didn't have these costs, you wouldn't be collecting the revenue, but if you didn't have the revenue, you wouldn't need these costs. So they both go away or they're both there. You can't have one without the other. Parks and Recreation is projected to end the fiscal year about $1.35 million over the current budget based on what we've seen so far for the first half of the year. And it's been a little rough for some pieces of equipment, the cost of services and supplies, utility costs are up, printing costs are up, credit card services. We've had some emergency repairs and replacement to aging equipment that they've needed to just take care of to continue operations. There was also the USDA inspection for the zoo, which required some extra staff time, and it required some repairs there in order to pass that inspection. We also had $40,000 paid out for vandalism in Economy Park to the turf. Just unexpected things that have come up this year that has made it more difficult for Parks and Recreation. But also included in this is about $380,000 of prior year encumbrances. Those are expenses that were approved in the prior year budget. They are encumbered by the end of the year, and the municipal code allows those to roll over into the next budget and be spent. And so that doesn't roll into the budget, but it is allowed to be spent. So that impacts them there as well. And then the last part to this is that there's about $200,000 of expenses for a ladder fuel grant program, that the expenses are in here, but we haven't received the revenue, so that's also impacting their budget. However, this is partially offset by the $520,000 in additional revenue that we believe Parks and Recreation will be over budget by the end of the year for their programs. And then the rest of them we're having some savings in library and public works due to some vacancies there as well, and expecting to be a little bit over budget for non-departmental. So for a total increase over the budgeted amount of $1.967 million, and that is about 1.8% over budget. So now on to your internal service fund. This is your risk management fund. This is the fund that's used to account for the costs of the city's insurance programs. And this year we have another year of expenses exceeding revenues. That means less money is coming in from the general fund and the enterprise funds than what it costs for us to pay the bills for those insurance programs. In recent years, like right after COVID, we had a planned use of the fund balance, and that was ordered in order to keep costs stable in the general fund. And that was great, but the general fund never replenished this fund. And so, in fact, this just continues to be depleted, and we'll see that on a future slide. But with the additional use of this fund balance, the unrestricted net position will be at about $3.5 million. We're expecting about a $1.1 million use of the fund balance. And this was not planned this year. And what happened was we saw a very large increase in the liability insurance, and you can see that at the bottom of the slide. Last year, 22-23, liability insurance cost $2.4 million. This year, it's $4.3 million. And we get estimates from NCCSIF, that's the city's insurance pool. We get estimates in the spring. They thought that they knew what the increase was going to be, and then July, when they actually know what it is, we're long past doing the budget process, and it came in at $4.3 million.
Is that a permanent adjustment to what we're going to pay for that, or is that an annual, is that a blip of some kind?
It's likely to be a permanent adjustment. We got new estimates of it going up even higher, so
Great.
it just continues to grow. But that's exactly why we have a fund balance in this fund, is to be able to take care of those things, you know, outside of the general fund. If we hadn't had a balance in here, the general fund would have had to pay that bill, and instead of being up here reporting kind of a break even for the general fund, we'd be at least $1 million of use of fund balance for this 1 year. So over the past 5 years, about $5.6 million of this reserve in the risk management fund has been used to pay for insurance costs. What that means is that the general fund and the enterprise funds, to a lesser extent, is not paying its way. The risk fund has been picking up the shortfalls in these insurance costs for the last 5 years. And there hasn't been enough money coming in from the general fund to pay the bills. And so this is how this happens. It's protected the general fund from having to deal with it, but it's not sustainable. And so it's important for us to just pay close attention to what's going on here. And we can't assume that the general fund has been fine covering all its costs, because it hasn't. The risk management fund has been picking up those shortfalls for 5 years. And as you can see, it's depleting the reserve. Gone from 9 million to 3.5 million. Your enterprise funds. The water fund is projected to end the year with program revenues slightly above budget at 19.9 million, and your operating expenses are projected to be at 17.5 million. Capital expenses for this year are projected at about $6 million, and that would leave the water fund with $21.1 million of working capital, and they are pay-as-you-go, so that leaves them in good shape to be able to continue with their capital program. Wastewater Enterprise Fund is projected to have program revenues of $12.9 million, and operating expenses are projected to be slightly below budget at about $6.1 million. The projection for capital expenses is about $12 million in this fund, and that would leave their working capital at $16.8 million. And then for your solid waste fund, program revenues are projected at $27.9 million. You have your operating expenses at $19 million, and then capital expenses, and this is vehicle purchases for your solid waste trucks and other large equipment, at $9.3 million, leaving working capital for future vehicle purchases at $14.7 million. And that's the last slide I have for you.
Excellent, thank you for that. Council, any questions? I guess questions first, and then we'll take some public comment. We don't have any?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to go back to the general fund. I think it was the increase, maybe it was slide 8. Yeah, so you said community development is over budget 1.3, but we already calculated 325,000 for the grant that they received for the amended budget that we have from, we went from 108 to 109. So where is the other well, I put 1.4. Where's the other 1 million? Those aren't expenses that we've approved yet as a council. Those are just expected expenses that are coming to the council?
They're expected based on revenue. So if the revenue comes in for a building permit, it's expected that that inspection will happen. And so they're paying for the inspection, so the inspection contracts would go up.
So, okay,
That's not an expense that we regularly approve here at the city council. That's just a cost of doing business, so to speak.
cost of doing business, right. But we've approved amended budget of $109 million. So that doesn't mean every single thing that comes into the city as far as revenue is we can automatically spend up to that amount. The council has now approved $109 million. So I'm assuming those items that are over because of increased permitting or whatever, is going to come to council. And so you expect it to be $1.1 million?
I expect it to be over by 1.3 million for the charges for service revenue that comes in, and the building permit revenue, and the expenses. And this is a little complicated for community development. Before the Great Recession, community development was in their own fund because of this right here. When you have an uptick in operational costs, because you have to do the inspections that you got the revenue for, they both go up. And so it hasn't been the practice to come back to the council and say, we're planning to receive an extra $800,000 in permit revenue. Is it okay if we do the inspections? That hasn't happened. If the council wanted to do something like that, then we could, but for community development, generally it's been, if they have the revenue coming in for a specific service, it's been allowed to happen as long as it's a break even.
Well, we're very concerned, the public is very concerned about how we're spending our money. So if we're not keeping track of where that and I keep saying 1.1 because we already, the 325,000 of it went towards a grant, which we already amended, right, throughout this process.
Yeah, so that's included in their budget of 6.9 million. That includes the grant increase. So the actual formula here with the remaining $1.4 million is just for the contract expenses.
Well, so I think the question is if we plan on, if our expenses are going up in one department, so this is applying to the next one, Parks and Rec as well. If our expenses are going up by $1.4 million and there's some revenue coming in, but I mean, it doesn't seem 120% over budget, it doesn't seem that we're compensating for that 100% through revenue. So it is the council's responsibility to track our expenses, right? The revenue comes in, that's great. But we're not going to deny any revenue. But we should be on it as far as tracking our expenses. So those expenses, as you showed in the email that you sent us, that document, we are approving and amending some of the expenses, but not all of the expenses. So I'm concerned about that, those expenses that we're not keeping track of and keeping our eye on. It feels like there's a little bit of lack of, not on your part, of course, you're just your job, but a lack of transparency on like how is this money being spent. So the same with Parks and Rec. You have additional revenue. You said projected of 525,000, but we're below $1.3 million. So what are we spending over and above that we're not keeping track of as a council? And that's my concern, is the process of it. So I want to make sure any even projected expenses that are going over our budget are coming to council for approval. I mean, take the case in January when and this isn't your department, of course it's Parks and Rec, but the budget came in over budget in December for the next 6 months to a year, and we didn't approve the extra 100,000 just to keep our services the same. So how is that not applicable to this part too? So I think the public, unsure feeling or lack of confidence in how the city is kind of presenting the numbers comes from kind of these kind of things. So I guess I'm not saying there's anything going on. It's just that these things need to be transparent.
What's the procedural change that you're suggesting?
That's
That's
above my pay
punchline?
grade. Yeah, I mean, I think
so
every amended expense should be coming to council. So if there's an amended expense coming in, like the 325, you just sent an email saying 325,000 was a CDD grant. Great. And you put the resolutions on it. So I really appreciate that information. 92,000 of it was a PD grant. 17,000 of it was for this fence. 508,000 of it was for ARPA. And that was for revenue, right? Obviously, it's going to apply to some of the expenses. That is transparency to me. So what I'm asking for is, it's going over 1.4, but how are we spending 1.4 without council approval? That's my problem, right? And how are we spending 1.3 minus the 525, which you just explained, but how are we spending $1.3 million over our budgeted expense, which we passed, without council approval? Because a signing bonus is one thing, but even a signing bonus, I don't believe that I don't believe the city manager has authority to go over a signing bonus over the budget approved amount, right? So
No, that's true. There's a couple things in here for Parks and Recreation. They do have the encumbrances. And so that rolls over and it is approved. That's part of the municipal code that's allowed. We could do another column like that first one where I had the amended budget, the ARPA expenditures. We could put encumbrances in there. So that would help you to see that some of these expenses were already approved. So we could do that. I think that would help for Parks and Recreation. And then For community development, Pam could say, I think that we're gonna need this much more by the end of the year because we think this is what revenue's gonna be, which is all this is, it's just projections by the end of the year, and get approval for it, and we could do that. I think it would need to be like maybe you would do it every quarter, you would just have one resolution for these specific items. I don't know that you would want to do it for, every kind of supply or anything like that, so.
No, I agree, yeah. But I think just, because as we're going through, the situation that we've supposedly been in for the last 5 years, I'm looking at this going, well, how did the expenses get to be so much without council approval? And you've heard me ask these questions. So I think anything that we can do to add transparency and make those numbers work as far as what the council has approved and had authority over, because in the end, it's our budget at the end of it. And if we're not keeping track of the previous budget, then it's our responsibility. And so that's my main thing. So thank you for, hopefully you can consider some of those things. I think that's good for now.
Okay. Can I just test a couple of ideas that may try and implement a policy that addresses what you're talking about? We can either do council-approved budget amendments specifically and more frequently, or on some cadence. What would be a frequency that would be, in your mind, satisfying? So if, for instance, we said public, community development, bring us a new estimate quarterly, which is effectively what we have here, as an action item, we could do that. So that we would approve the fact that we now project that community development's, revenue is $8.377 million.
I think quarterly would make sense. I mean, I'm not sure when
Daylight on this is what we're doing right now.
When I'm
so
answering you, yeah. And I think quarterly would make sense. I'm not sure when the timing of the resolutions that we passed for these 4 other things, but, we don't want to, have the staff have to do a bunch of more work, or you, I guess it would come to you for the money part. But, I think transparency is key. So, our job is to track expenses and, and then direct our city manager on what our vision is. So I think quarterly would be acceptable. I think, I think you understand where.
Yeah, I do.
So I think.
Yeah, just for clarity, the ones that were approved before was because it was a specific item being approved, like a grant. When the council approves receiving the grant, we do that, and in the title it says an appropriation of funds. So that's kind of part of another process that we're already doing. For what you're talking about, I think maybe it could be where I bring the quarterly report and then there's just a resolution possibly with it, just showing this is what we're projecting for revenues, this is what we're projecting for expenses, and then possibly the council would just then approve that budget amendment. So it would be this information right here, and then when I come back the next time, now your approved budget is $111.5 million.
Yeah.
If the council wants that.
The other possibility is that we return to the past and segment out community development and Parks and Rec in some fashion, so that budget alone gets an amendment.
Yes,
would that be
we could do that.
better?
The reason that community development, and Parks and Rec both, but community development primarily came back into the general fund was because in lean years, they went negative by $10 million in that fund. And so then the general fund was kind of plugging along with a big shortfall over here. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't the full picture. And so that was why it was decided by previous council to bring it back into the general fund so that you're always kind of seeing the whole picture. But it does make it a little complicated with the ups and downs.
Okay. Ms. Rodriguez, any comment, questions?
I would be fine. I would be fine with a quarterly review on this.
We do a quarterly review as it is. It's a question of, do we want to officially approve a projection every 3 months? I have to think about this.
Yeah, I think I'm
not
in the same
gonna
boat.
weigh in on that idea right tonight, but yeah, YK, what
I will
thoughts do you
just,
have?
as the community development director, I'll just weigh in that a lot of these revenues and expenses are very timely. We'll get a permit application and the turnaround on some of them is weeks. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, but usually it's a pretty short window of time, and we have to provide the service. So we can't not inspect unless we as a city council, you as a city council, make a policy decision that you're not going to provide that level of service, and we're not going to do,
This is why I
the
came up
near-term
short of
inspections.
approving your expenses and was talking about approving a projection of cost and expenses.
And Pam, there's also probably also situations where you're going to end up with an excess of revenue that hasn't been
Spent yet.
spent, which is going to throw things off.
Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what happens now is it just goes into the general fund. I mean, some years it's break even, some years it's a little bit of a bonus, and some years it's a deficit. But ideally, it's break even. And we're going to talk more about that on another agenda item tonight.
For sure.
And I wasn't necessarily looking for a policy to put something, but just wouldn't you, but that's not a bad idea as far as making it reasonable, and maybe we just need to flesh that out. But making it clear of what's happening, that the council hasn't approved 1.4 million in over budget of community development, parks and rec. And I'm not saying that it's not because you're getting more revenue. I get that. But how do we make it more clear to our public? Because I can dig down on this, but there's a lot of questions being asked, and how do we just make it clear when you present on the quarterly report? So it could be just as simple as that.
We can probably attach a summary report of the detailed permit levels and revenues coming in and where those expenses are going. I mean, that might be an easy way to do it. But we can work with Stacy.
We maybe overtly or tacitly have a policy that expenses that have a cost, a delivery cost fees that are paid that have an expected, expense that go along with them, we haven't asked for them to be approved, and they are kind of an automatic change to the projections. So we do basically have that policy currently. This would be a change to that. We would have to change it to, try and have an actual council action to change the projection throughout the year, rather than just following it and making those projections as we go.
One other comment just is that I'm reporting through December and we're already in March. It's just the nature of it.
Right.
And so some of these would be, already spending maybe
Significantly
beyond.
out of date already. Yeah,
Perhaps
Yeah.
in some categories, yeah.
yeah, gotcha. YK, your thoughts?
I don't have any more questions on the community development though, because that's very hard to control.
Yeah.
When the applications are coming, they got to do on a fly, right? But my only point is, it's along the same lines of what, Anna was talking. I'm looking at the salary and benefit savings of 3.4 millions. Departments are using their savings for O&M or some other purposes. I think that we need to know where and how they are using it. Because if it is a one-time thing, I'm okay with it. But if it is going to be consistent, next year their expenditure is going to be definitely more than what we are approving. What if there is no salary savings that time? It's going to be more. So when Tracy, you can help me here. I'm just taking an example. Nothing wrong. I'm picking the police or fire. Any of these employees. Excluding the community development, because that is a contractor expenses, not the salaries and benefits, if I can understand it right. So I'm looking at the numbers of 3.4 millions, including salaries and benefit savings. But we won't see that here because they have used it.
Correct.
Where, what, how, that transparency helps everybody. If it makes sense. I don't want to go to the minute level of the, paper pens and that kind of thing. At high level, no, this is a one-time thing. They used it because they had this money savings. I can go back to our police friends. They have 6 officers they are recruiting, but they OT paid to run the shifts. Perfectly fine, but we don't know. So that clarity helps because 3.4 million is a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah, right now, the finance department is able to put this together pretty much on our own. With that level of detail, it'll definitely be a citywide project for every quarterly report.
No, I think, I'm sure their expenditures you are receiving on a quarterly basis.
We do see them, but through December, we won't know, what things they did as a one-time thing, or because we don't dig into every single line item, every single transaction for the quarterly report.
Yeah, okay.
But we can try to get that information for the big things.
So that's the only thing, just for, clarity
Okay,
purposes.
gotcha. Madam
Yeah,
Vice Mayor.
redirecting the fund salaries to somewhere else.
Okay, 10-4.
So this probably warrants some additional discussion at a future meeting because, I'm not sure I agree that it's the city council's job to track expenses. We have professional staff that does that. It's our job to adopt a budget. But I wouldn't expect staff to come back to us, when the SMUD bill comes in over budget, when police and fire come in over budget, we got to do what we got to do. We've approved the expense, and of course, some things are going to come over budget, some things are going to come under budget. We get this, quarterly report where it's all, kind of explained to us. So, I'm willing to have further discussion about it, but I don't want to micromanage the staff. We have professional financial folks.
Agreed.
Agreed.
And you do bring, when we have an expense that was not budgeted, for example, the zoo fence, which we had to do because the USDA said we had to do it, you bring that to us to approve because it was not in the original budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But when something that was approved in the budget but comes in over budget, you don't bring that to us
No,
to say, yes, go
they
ahead.
just go ahead and pay the SMUD bill.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And in terms of community development, of course, if we take the money for a project, we have to provide the service. I mean, I'm not sure what's so hard to follow for that, but maybe more discussion in the future.
I think I have a happy question. Can you go back to slide 6, if I remember correctly?
I need that one also.
I'm going to expose some good news,
Happy
maybe,
question.
if I'm right. So the per capita sales tax revenue, is that what this is representing? So
Yes.
$269 per person? So we used as the denominator our population?
That's what they do, yes.
Okay, excellent. So the good news is that people from outside of Folsom pay part of our sales tax for us.
It is true.
So the actual amount of money that any given person is paying for sales tax is less than $269. So FYI. That's all. Thank you. All right. Good job. Thank you very
Mr.
much
Mayor,
for your
may I
presentation.
ask for a clarification? Stacy, if you could go back to slide 8, please. Is there direction to staff at this point or keep everything the same? Just bring quarterly financial report as usual?
I don't think there was consensus to change anything tonight.
Not tonight, we got to talk later.
Okay. Only because if the council would like to have an action item to go along with the quarterly financial report to approve the over budget expenditures, it may be too late. Sometimes lawfully, we have to pay those expenditures.
Yeah, the only
And
thing
what
I
if
was
the council
offering
says
was
no?
officially accepting the new projections, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, we got to think a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's why I thought we needed to
We need to talk more.
spend
And
some
I think
time
it should
thinking
be
about
under
it.
the guise of, it is absolutely our job to pass a budget and hold the city manager accountable for staying within that budget throughout the year. So, how we do that can be explored, but, bringing amendments back after the fact is also something that can happen if you have to make an immediate payment. If that happened, then there's no reason the council wouldn't pass the amendment. So being more transparent but it is absolutely our job to hold the city manager for staying within the budget that we passed.
Okay, but just to use a ridiculous example, right now, we're beginning the final quarter of the year, right? And suppose the Parks and Rec Department has 300 extra Little League baseball players sign up, and now they've got to hire more referees for those games. That wouldn't show up in any of our quarterly reports, and we wouldn't be approving that extra expense for those umpires and referees for those games until well after the fact. So that's why I'm suggesting that we need some time to kind of hash this out a little bit further and see if there is a policy change that makes sense. Okay, thank you. We are now to the part of the meeting that is
Thank you,
business-
Stacy.
business from the floor. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda already. And we have some requests to speak.
Yeah, you have about 8 requests to speak on this under business from the floor. So I'll call a name and then let you know who's coming next. So our first speaker will be Gary Grice. Gary will be followed by John Triplett, who'll be followed by Mike Grunberg.
And just so that we have clarity about the time limitation, you have 3 minutes to speak. The little lights on the podium will light up yellow when you're running short of time and red when you're over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Gary Grice. I'm 76. My wife is 70. We've lived in Folsom a little over 30 years in Natoma Station. Both retired. My wife is blind and navigates the community with her 3rd guide dog for the blind. She's been accosted 2 different times now over the last 4 or so years by a psychotic homeless man. So far, he has not physically accosted her. He has verbally accosted her with profanities and right in her face, literally spitting in her face. We live in Natoma Station, which we are just off Blue Ravine across from Winco, and we're beleaguered by homeless encampments right along the boulevard where my wife likes to walk with her guide dog, get her daily exercise, and keep the guide dog safe and secure and sharp for crossing streets, boulevards, etc. And recently, 2 encampments have been right across from Winco. It seems our Sergeant Gruenberg from your police department has been very helpful, and his homeless team has tried to help us. But it seems that the city has just a very liberal policy about the homeless encampments. I would like to figure out a way to mitigate the homeless encampments away from our residential areas where women, children, disabled, and elderly people want to walk but can't. Recently, she walked past these 2 encampments across from Winco. It's very common that the homeless people have their own pet dogs. These dogs typically are pit bull mixes or similar kind of guard dogs, if you will. As she and her guide dog walked past, an unleashed dog growled and tried to come out of the encampment. Obviously, it didn't happen, and we were glad about that. But I guess we're at a point where we pay taxes, we live here, this is our home. If we could figure out a way, if the homeless people want to camp in Folsom, let them camp on the Willow Creek Trail. Already, none of the residents can safely navigate the Willow Creek Trail. There's already encampments there. Get them out in the trail or somewhere else, but not next to our neighborhood where we're walking. That's it.
Okay.
Sir, Police Lieutenant Chris Emery would like to speak with you if that's possible. He's at the back of the room. And, sir? The back of the room? Yeah, Lieutenant Emery can speak with you about the challenges your wife has been facing. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker will be John Triplett, who'll be followed by Mike Grunberg, who'll be followed by Ricky Jones.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is John Triplett. I'm your new president of the Folsom Police Officers Association. In November of last year, I spoke about the impact of homelessness invading our community, businesses, and parks. That speech was after a brutal homeless stabbing at Livermore Park. Tonight, I come back to bring light of yet another brutal attack involving homelessness right here in this park. I mentioned last time, but the survey that was sent out highlighted the response in which 46.6% indicated public safety as their concern. In October, the room was filled with citizens bringing forth their concerns and demanding the city to discuss its response to homelessness. To this day, we as citizens, business owners, and employees have not heard from the council or the city manager on the response to homelessness as it has increased 600%. All I've heard lately is that the city has a revenue problem. I look at the glass in a different way, as the city has a spending problem. I know our new Parks and Rec director, Kelly Gonzalez, just arrived, so I don't necessarily blame her. I look at our current and past city council, city manager, and parks directors as the problem. Reason being, in the last 8 budgets, the Folsom Zoo has been over $8 million in the red, which, easy math, a little over $1 million in the red each year. Also, attendance is drastically down. In 2018, attendance was a bit over 143K. And in 2022, it was all the way down to 109. This 109 is by far the lowest attendance number dating back to at least 2013 minus COVID years. The continued upkeep, enhancements, and decrease in attendance is not sustainable. Has the city discussed selling it to a nonprofit as they are better equipped to fundraise and to get the zoo back to breaking even? At the city council meeting on January 13th, the city manager was quoted, "The huge revenue producer of the aquatic center. What she failed to mention is that the expenditures are greater than the revenue. I'm a proponent of the aquatic center, but to call it a huge revenue generator with these facts might be a little much." That is a quick look at the spending issue. Now let's turn your attention to economic development. Close your eyes and envision driving from Sacramento to Lake Tahoe, and what's the first thing you see? An empty auto mall building. So question is, how come Rockland has Land Rover, Tesla, and Porsche dealership, yet they don't have an auto mall? Our city leaders need to find an avenue to attract a car dealership in that building so we can get the tax revenue. Take a look at our Palladio Mall. I've spoken with many citizens, and they have mentioned it is not a real mall, and go to the Rosedale Galleria to shop. Why isn't the city helping finding key shopping stores so our community doesn't have to go to Rosedale? Just imagine an Apple store at the Palladio. At the recent wish list from department heads, a request for $880,000 was asked for improvements for Lions Park and Lemmy Park, which happen to be key locations for homelessness. I asked you to review what that actual line item is for the $880,000, because if it's things that the homeless will destroy, then shouldn't the city have a plan on dealing with the homeless before fixing stuff? I want you to remember the year 2016, what the city of Folsom looked like. The police department had 81 sworn. Fast forward to 2024, and the police department still has 81 sworn officers. It is clear and evident current and past city managers of city council are not investing in the protection of its community. And we'll just end with that. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Mike Grunberg, followed by Ricky Jones, followed by Nasim Ahmed.
Good evening, Mike Grunberg, Folsom Police Officers Association. Tonight I stand before you once more compelled to extend my impassioned plea for action and accountability in the face of our city's escalating crisis. It has been over 9 months since I first addressed this council regarding the homelessness crisis, and regrettably, the situation has not only failed to improve, but has deteriorated further. The lack of responsiveness and tangible solutions following my initial plea is deeply disheartening. We are not here to trade barbs or engage in political posturing. We're here to serve the people, to safeguard the well-being of our community, and to address the pressing issue that threatens the very fabric of our society. As I spoke of the increasing homeless crisis in June of last year, it was met with skepticism and disagreement from some city council members, particularly the mayor at the time. Now, the citizens of Folsom, the very individuals who entrusted you with their votes, are witnessing the fallout of this inaction. The 2 attempt homicides that have occurred at local parks are not isolated incidents, but rather a stark reminder that the city is facing a serious public safety crisis. In the midst of this turmoil, the actions of Councilmember Rodriguez stand out particularly troubling. Despite the pressing issue at hand, she has chosen to focus on a campaign for a seat within the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. While she disseminates campaign mailers promising to, quote, fight to solve the homeless crisis and, quote, make fighting crime a top priority, Our track record within our city suggests a misalignment between words and deeds. Let's delve into the statistics once more, a language Councilmember Rodriguez claims to value. The staffing levels at our police department remain stagnant, reminiscent of conditions 15-plus years ago. Concurrently, the homeless population has skyrocketed by an alarming 600% over the last 2 years. These figures are not mere data points. They represent the lived experiences of our fellow citizens who are grappling with the consequences of inaction. As a dedicated member of the Police Officers Association for nearly 2 decades, I find it increasingly challenging to reconcile this discord between the promises made by some city council members and the stark realities faced by our community. The tireless efforts of our law enforcement officers should not be in vain. We need a council to prioritize the safety and well-being of our citizens over political ambitions.
You're at your time.
All right, I'll respectfully give my time to Mr. Jones.
You have
Mr.
no
City
time
Attorney.
to turn over.
I have a question. What are the consequences of responding to a comment that's inaccurate?
I would not recommend that the council makes any response. This is business from the floor.
Thank you.
This is not an action
you.
item. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Just so the public understands, business from the floor are non-agendized items that are brought up by the public. You're welcome to do so, but they are not items that the city council can take up discussion of this evening in future meetings potentially. Welcome, sir.
My name is Ricky Jones. I'm also a member of the Folsom Police Officers Association. And I would like to take up where Mike Grunberg left off. So this is an opportunity for introspection and transformation. Council members, I implore you to reevaluate your commitment to the people who you serve. The citizens of Folsom are not interested in political maneuvering or hollow promises. They demand action and results. It's time to cast aside the veil of complacency and prioritize the needs of our community over personal interests. Furthermore, it's crucial to address the alarming surge in theft and organized retail theft that has gripped our city. Businesses, large and small, are facing unprecedented losses, threatening the economic vitality of our community. The citizens of Folsom cannot afford to endure both rising crime rates and the crippling impact on local businesses. It is imperative that we take immediate and comprehensive action to combat this threat to the safety and prosperity of our city. In conclusion, the citizens of Folsom are looking to this council for leadership, empathy, and concrete solutions. The time for grandstanding and empty rhetoric has passed. It's time to rise to the occasion, acknowledge the gravity of our current situation, and take decisive action to make Folsom a safer and more prosperous place for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Nasim Ahmed, who will be followed by Max Hofstad, who will be followed by Jeff Garcia.
Hi, I'm Nasim Ahmed. I'm here with my wife, Janet. I had no idea these people are going to come in before me, and I'm going to have to speak after them, but I'm going to sound like a broken record, coming from a totally different angle, okay? I've been here since 1996, long time. I currently run a software company based in Sutter Street, and me and my wife are also owner of a business in Quill Park Plaza, which is one of the gentlemen was talking about around Winco. It is right after Prairie City Road on Blue Ravine. Okay, it's a business park, 9 buildings, health and wellness. Okay, the reason I'm here is I have 2 tenants, and one of them teaches a very good music school where my property is in the back. There are 3 buildings, and there is a nice fountain, and all those things were designed that way. And they have people who are waiting, spend time in that area. And next to them is a doctor. She is an acupuncture doctor. And she's been recently brought it to our attention that when she gets out, she sees homeless people regularly. Okay, that was the start. Second thing happened is when we recently checked, our fire control room was broken in, batteries were stolen. I have people going in, my neighbor who is not here because he's owning the businesses from Bakersville or someplace like that, he can be here. His roofs, they go up there, and the tiles are broken, now he is repairing those. But what is more alarming to me is my tenant, who is 7 months pregnant, now going out and cleaning up their garbage and drug needles. That is just not acceptable, as far as I'm concerned. So now that is the complaining part. You know, it's easy to complain and we have to look for a solution, and I understand that. I'm working very closely with my HOA to see what we can do. I'm working with my co-owners to what we can do. My real estate agent, Doug Scalzi, some of you might know him. Everybody knows him in Folsom. He was an ex-police officer. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago when he brought in the Fish and Wildlife. A couple of police officers were there. You know, we had a very good discussion. 2 days ago, actually, I went down there to look for some fencing and things, and the Fish and Wildlife was already there. They're from the state, and they're coming up and cleaning up some of the things. We identified some of the pathways where maybe we'll put something in there, okay? But I don't think that is going to stop, you know. This is a big problem, and I am not going to stop, and I'm going to be proactive about it. You know, I don't like to do reactive things. And hearing everybody else, I am reactive, because this problem, I'm not the only one. Everybody that came to you today talked about that, okay? I understand what you say. This is not an agenda item today, but I'm here to bring it to the limelight. This needs to be dealt with, okay? Because I can afford to have, you know, I mean, I'm sympathetic to people, okay? We have to do something. But that does not allow somebody to come in and do drugs in my business, does not allow them to vandalize the business. Right. Okay?
So you're at your time, but can I make a suggestion that you talk with our police officers that are in the back and give them some further details
I
if
will,
necessary?
but they're the one who actually told me to come here because they're under budget, and I looked at your budget. You got to spend a little bit more money, but I'm not going to get into the suggestion for you. All right. I understand that. But I want to bring it up, and you're going to see me again.
Thank you for being proactive. Appreciate that.
Okay, our next speaker will be Max Hofstede, who'll be followed by Jeff Garcia, who'll be followed by Michael Harris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Max Hofstadt.
I'm Kai Walker.
And my name is Ezekiel Castiglione, and we are seniors from Folsom High School working on a school project to improve trail safety here on the trails in Folsom.
So we are part of a pathway called GPS. It's Global Perspective Studies. It's a 4-year pathway, and at the end we have a senior project in which we have to help our community. So we found our goal was to help with the safety of the trails and also encourage trail use. We've so far spoken to Brett Bollinger of Parks and Rec, Fire Chief Cusano, and also Lynn LePage is our mentor. We also worked with Friends of Folsom Parkways, of which I'm a youth director for, and we got a lot of great advice for them. So what we've come to you with is a prototype for emergency response on the trails. We developed a sign post as well as a laminated sign for emergency response. It's a QR code in which people can scan it, and then it takes them to their location, and hopefully it can be sent to a dispatch center in which they'll get emergency response on their way. Because as of right now on the trails, if you have an emergency, it is very hard to tell the dispatch center where exactly you are. You can't really describe the trees because that's not very helpful. So a sign like this, we think, is extremely helpful. So there's actually a wayfinding project on the way from Parks and Rec. We spoke to Brett Bollinger, and he said that it's coming out within a few months. So we're hoping that our idea could be incorporated on these signs, perhaps on the same post, just a way to send help to a person using like direct coordinates. Sort of like a mile marker idea, but a bit more modern. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's probably likely I can get away with asking you one clarifying question.
Go for it.
Is the QR code in this scenario unique for the location, or does it open your own GPS app of some sort in your phone?
Yes, so in our prototype, it's all unique based on the location. We have it down within a few meters. And in our prototype, it opens up Google Maps. Ideally, this could be sent to a dispatch center in which you have the option to send emergency services or just open up your exact location.
Thank you.
And it also contains the latitude, longitude exactly, and the nearest road on the sign.
Terrific. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
That's all.
This
Thank you.
sounds like a very good project.
Okay, All right, our next speaker will be Jeff Garcia, who will be followed by Michael Harris, who will be followed by Doug Scalzi.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jeff Garcia. I'm the president of Friends of Folsom, a local charity 501c3. I've lived in Folsom since 2003. Our charity was started by my wife and myself 15 years ago. And over those 15 years, I'm proud to tell you that we have donated over seven figures, over $1 million, directly to charities, causes, and different projects within Folsom. We've fed over 75,000 families on Thanksgiving. We've adopted over 1,000 families on Christmas. I tell you this because we operate a charity where we are 100% volunteers. We don't have any paid employees. We don't have any administrative fees. 100% of the dollars that go to our charity go to 100% of the cause. We raise money for these endeavors through events, parties, concerts, barbecues, you name it, we do it in an effort. We try to say we put the fun in fundraising. And one of the things that we as a board of our charity tried to do this year is in February, we came to the city with an idea of putting on a community day at the park that is adjacent to Rodeo Park. That's the Digger Sharon Williams Park. The idea was to have a bunch of recreational games for kids and adults, a bunch of local food vendors and beverage vendors, and also a bunch of bands, live music. That started in February. In August, we got an approval that we would get the park itself. We could reserve the park. I will be very forthright in saying that it came with some conditions, or we were told it would come with some conditions. A special use permit that would require us to do different things, everything from security to potentially bathrooms, water, so on and so forth, parking, traffic. And that's part of what I wanted to express today is that when you guys run, when I see people within the community, they're always talking about community involvement and getting more people involved with the community, so on and so forth. And that's exactly who and what we are. We're involved in the community at the utmost level. And my point to that is that throughout this process, we thought we were okay to have this event. And then last week, we received, instead of conditions, we received a denial. And so that sparked a whole chain reaction of folks within our organization and myself, where you started to hear from me. We started to reach out to you guys as individuals, we reached out to the community leadership, so on and so forth. Today, I did hear from a lieutenant at the police department, and I will tell you that I probably blew his hair off because I was just so anxious to talk to somebody that could give me some answers as to what we needed to do to make this event work. Because until today, I hadn't got a specific list of what it would require. Now, there's things like parking or traffic, plans, but I dare anybody to show me how to create that. Where do you go to get it? You can't go online, you can't go to the Folsom website. It's just, you need a parking plan and you need a traffic plan. Today, at least I got some answers as to what that dictates or what that entails. Great. But we were denied based on the fact that the city is doing an Earth Day. And all I'm trying to do is, or if I can get something across today, is that I don't see a conflict between an Earth Day that is to be taking place at the community center or the senior center between the hours of 11 and 1 to an event that we're trying to have in the basin of Rodeo Park from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Jeff, you got to bring your comments to a
Cool,
close here.
I
You're
will do
past
that
time.
just right now. All I'm asking for is some guidance or some help to try to be solutions oriented. I spoke to a representative of the city today who was talking to me about the Nile, and while we were talking, that person told me, it sounds like you're just going to continue to look for solutions, as though that was a negative or derogatory. And yes, that's what I do, and that's hopefully what you guys are doing and what the community is doing. So I guess I would leave with the thought or request for help or for guidance on how we could potentially do this community day for an organization that is deeply involved in the community and looking to do good things for our community.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Michael Harris. Michael will be followed by Doug Scalzi.
You know, it's too quiet in here. It's a beautiful day. It was raining this morning. I had my coat on, did a little work. But the idea that, no, I'm not going there. Happy Women's Her Story Month. And to you brothers on the dais, you know, go home tonight, rub some feet, say something nice to your wife. So good news, we had this has just been an amazing year. Came back from the World Ag Expo down in Tulare with some great news, partnering with the Farm Bureau to increase new and beginning farmers' access to resources. The United States Department of Agriculture, once again, is trying to throw a bunch of money at Black farmers, which is, some of it's silly, but the reason is historical legacy. No different than here in Folsom. The state parks throwing $15 million at reinterpreting the history of the parks, like the work we've done for the last 25 years in the state legislature, doesn't suffice. They gotta look at it again. So I'm hearing the money issues, and Mayor Mikolos will probably attest to it. I mean, we've been doing Juneteenth here for a long time, like 24 years. And now that it's a federal holiday, I was on the National Juneteenth Board. Regional director, we have, it's a paid holiday in Alaska, not in California, it's optional. Paid holiday, I don't go there, I'll leave that alone. But the idea that now that it's a national holiday, people are coming to Folsom from outside Folsom, and won't even talk about that there was a civil war, which Juneteenth is like the last battle. But the idea that the good news is Secretary Crowfoot of the Natural Resources Agency, he had his first trip to Black Miners Bar, and he brought friends with him. The director of CCC, it's now going to be a training program over there, and they're going to clean up, and hopefully we'll get fire department under his purview, CAL FIRE, as well, to do some mitigation on growth that is waiting for another fire. Hopefully it just keeps raining, we won't have that issue this year. But the beauty is, this week, I'm almost done. I've got 25 whole seconds. So this week, we're going to kick off, conversation about Leidesdorf Center in state parks. And some of you may have seen the sign on the highway. And I'm probably going to call Tova Leidesdorf and ask her for some money. I don't do that. I don't do that well. But I'm going to ask her to come back and do some things good in this community. So look forward to that. And Juneteenth, this will be our 24th year. I ain't going to ask y'all for no money, but I'm going to ask for y'all help. All right. Peace.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, your last speaker this evening under business from the floor will be Doug Scalzi.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't write anything down, so no guarantees what's going to come out of my mouth in this next 3 minutes. I'm back here again. It was October when I spoke last time. I asked for a meeting about the homeless issues. You guys put it on the agenda. I got up and spoke, had a little extra time to speak about things. Since then, I want to clarify some things because, people are talking about Grunberg's team and everything and dealing with the homeless issues. They are now focusing on retail thefts because that's where we're at with our manpower. So we don't officially have a homeless team anymore. That's back to patrol. Okay, so we're down all these officers. We were trying to look at getting more people on his team to fight the homeless issue and the transient issue, and part of that is the cause of thefts as well. But now we're just kind of going backwards. So, we had a long talk about different things back in October. I haven't seen anything change. I don't know what's really gone on. So I ask that, I know you guys can't, talk about anything or have a conversation with us, but maybe at the end of the city council meeting, you can each stop for a second and say what you've been working on in regards to the homeless issue since we were up here talking about it in October. That would be nice to hear from all of you of what's been going on. Kudos to the high schoolers for stepping up and working on a program to make our parkways and our trails safe. It's really unfortunate to think that I've been here all my life in this town and never, growing up, worried about walking the trails as a kid or anything. But now we have to, the reality is here and we have to do this. And we have had our stabbings at our parks. We just had, since the last time we talked, we had a pickaxe attempted murder behind my house, okay? And I've talked about all the homeless issues behind my house and around my house. But now it's getting a little crazy. We have to call the SWAT team out, and there's people getting injured, almost died, losing their lives. And people walk these trails every day. And this is where we're at. I told you guys back in October, we are in a crisis. We are in a serious crisis. And it's going to take some real thinking about what we need to do. We might not have the funds right now, but there's plenty of stuff that I talked about that can be done, starting with committees or getting people that want to come together and learn about how we can do things money-wise or not, without money. There's a lot of things that can be done. So I really want to know what's being done with City Council, their ideas and what's going to happen. I've heard ideas about putting a center in the historic district, in the train yard. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. I'll fight that because we already have enough problems down in the historic district with transients and homelessness. So the next thing is that people don't realize that there's a lot of other things that are happening. A lot of people's insurance might be realizing their insurance in Folsom's going up because we're considered a high fire area. That's just another issue that's happening because we're getting, last few years, a lot of these fires that we've had.
You're over your time.
I know. A lot of the fires we've had are because of homeless camps. So now our ratings are going up, and now insurance, I know people that their insurance is going from $1,000 a year to $7,000 to $10,000 a year because of this issue. So there's a lot of issues going on.
Thank you.
I wish that you guys are out there running your campaigns and everything and trying to do what you want to do, and if you'd spent half of that energy in working on this homeless issue, I think we can come up with some ideas. So I really want to hear from you guys what you've done. Thank you.
You have no further requests to speak tonight under business from the floor.
Okay, well, we are on to our consent calendar. Is there any reason to pull in any of the items 3 or 4? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can you please call the roll?
Yeah, Council Members Aquino?
Yes.
Chalem-Chirla?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Rohrbach?
Yes.
And Kozlowski?
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to our new business item this evening, item number 5. This is a Community Development Department Fee Study Workshop.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor Pam Johns, Community Development Director. And I'm simply going to introduce our talented team of staff that have been working for the last 6 months on this fee study with our consultant team and are happy to be before you tonight. First, we'll have Josh Kincaid. He's the project manager. He's our associate planner, and he's been leading the charge, along with all of the community development management team who will be getting up to speak on their respective division components with the consultant team here this evening. So thank you for hearing us out.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. I am Josh Kincaid, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. And the item that we're presenting for you this evening is a workshop for the department's proposed fee updates. We'll start by presenting you with what those proposed updates are, and then have a community workshop with you to determine what modifications you'd like to see to the proposed fee schedule. First, for some background, our department consists of the building, development, engineering, arborist, and planning staff.
The department's fees currently recover less than the city's full cost of providing our fee-related services, which are the permits and projects that we see. This is in part due to our outdated fee schedule. The last time fees were substantially updated for the department was 2006, which was 18 years ago already. And since then, several processes have changed to reflect current practices and state policies and laws. The lack of fee revenue has resulted in longer permit and project review times and inability for staff to offer expedited permit reviews like we have in the past. CDD has also implemented an electronic submittal and plan check process in recent years, and the vast majority of applications and processing that we do is through that system, but we don't have a funding source for maintenance and upgrades to that system. And finally, Section 3.50 of the Folsom Municipal Code requires 100% cost recovery on almost all CDD-related fees, and that is currently not reflected in how we currently collect fees. So with all that in mind, we were able to recently obtain a grant to comprehensively update our fees. We retained the services of ClearSource Financial Consulting to perform a fee study that is provided as an attachment to the staff report. ClearSource was chosen from several consultants that applied based on their extensive experience with user fee studies that led to successful updates to fees in other jurisdictions around the state, including locally for Roseville and Lincoln. So to talk about the details of the fee study itself, I'd like to hand the presentation off to Terry Madsen with ClearSource. Staff will then continue the presentation after Terry to talk about the changes that are proposed based on the fee study that was prepared.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you. As mentioned, my name is Terry Madsen. I'm here from ClearSource, and we help communities throughout the state as they examine and consider updates to user and regulatory fees. I know you've had a full evening, so I will move quickly through the presentation. I'll avoid being long-winded, but be available for feedback or questions. So just by way of agenda, we'll talk about background fees, some fundamentals that we think about in the fee setting process, what we see in Folsom, and then a brief discussion of next steps. So we are dealing with development-related fees here, building permit fees, planning fees, entitlements, encroachment reviews. And the idea here is that communities generally use their tax revenues to provide broad community-wide services, and they use fees when they are providing a specific service. So it allows us to recover the cost of providing that specific service, and that frees up the general fund revenues to provide more broad community-wide services. A point of importance is we are not examining any taxes, any utility rates, any special assessments or impact fees. They're a very specific world that we're dealing with that doesn't impact all of our residents on a day-to-day basis. So cities like Folsom and communities throughout the state perform these types of studies periodically. We do it to comply with California law. And I think an important point is the idea of we also examine fees and the idea of cost recovery to help us continue to meet the service level expectations of the community. So when we recover our costs, it helps us continue to provide that level of service. These fees, ultimately, if you decide to make any adjustments at a future meeting, they would be considered by the council at a public hearing, and then they can be adopted by the council. It doesn't go out to a community-wide vote. In staff reports, in presentation, we use phrases like cost of service, cost recovery, subsidy. These are service-based fees. So some labor, either your own in-house labor or contract service support, is being used to provide typically like plan review service, permit issuance service, inspection services, and we're trying to recover the cost of those services. And we do it in two ways, either through like fixed fees where we say the fee for this service will be $300. And we do fixed fees when things are more homogeneous in nature. We see this request sort of over and over and over. and we use time and materials billing when things aren't as homogeneous and we don't know exactly what to expect. From a cost recovery perspective, Josh mentioned that you do have a policy that says you would target full cost recovery typically from these types of fees. As you think about it, and communities consider that idea of what level of cost do I want to recover, they frequently use this type of gauge, where if I see like a high community benefit in the service, I think of low cost recovery. But if I see a clear recipient, a clear receiver of service, I might target higher cost recovery levels. And so that's why in the development fee world, we typically do see higher cost recovery levels, because we do see a direct receiver of service. The cost of service represents the city's ceiling for fee setting. So we don't want to set fees that exceed our cost of service. You could make a decision to collect fees that are less than the cost of your service, but what we want to remember is if we do that, the city still incurs the cost. It's just if we have a $300 cost and we take a $100 fee, the city still had a $300 cost. It's just that $200 gap was filled by some other city revenue source, and typically that is your general fund. So that is specific. That's general to all communities and fees in general. In Folsom, Josh mentioned it's been some time since you updated fees. They can sort of adjust organically as development cycles change and things like that. You can find growth in revenues, but what we did find is under recovery, and you would expect that since it's been some time. So our findings were consistent with what you would logically expect. We'll just talk specifically about building fees, then planning fees, then engineering, and I'll just do broad cost recovery overviews, and then staff's going to talk about some details that may be of particular importance to the council. So building fees, we do see less than full cost recovery. When we think about it, we would say it varies from year to year, but on average, we think building fees recover about 84% of the cost of actually providing building services. And that can vary from fee category to fee category, but in aggregate, if you looked at the cost of programming, it's about 84% cost recovery. And building fees, for the most part, are recommended for adjustment to full cost recovery as like an initial starting point for discussion. And before I conclude the presentation, we'll talk about what that might look like if you did move that, how you might look in the region. Planning fees, there's less cost recovery here in the planning world. I talked about some organic adjustment to fees. That happens more in the building side. The planning fees were really fixed. They could not really organically adjust. It was like, I'm setting a dollar amount of $50 in 2006, and that $50 still exists today. So when I leave fees unchanged, but I experience cost increases, my cost recovery doesn't stay the same. It actually goes backwards, right? So at some point in time, it was probably a higher level of cost recovery, but just over time, it's fallen. Planning fees, there is frequently targeted by communities this idea of there are places where we might push for less than full cost recovery. I think the council has expressed interest in temporary outdoor dining, minor design reviews that are maybe associated with single-family residential projects, some entertainment permitting, dealing with your landmark trees. So things where you might say there is community good here in addition to direct benefit. So we've just outlined these, and staff can talk more specifically about any that you're interested in. On the engineering side, we do see less than full cost recovery. Again, these had the power to sort of organically adjust over time. It's just they couldn't keep up with full cost recovery. We've been working with staff to figure out a fee structure that will allow the city to recover your internal costs and the costs of outside service providers, and the idea for those non-homogeneous type projects of using deposit-based time and materials. So your collections align to your expenditures. So I'll wrap up in the next few slides. Just on the comparison side, we typically try and find a handful of fees from each category. You know, your fee schedule has hundreds of scenarios it contemplates because there are hundreds of different development needs. We pick like 5 or 6 in each world and say, these could be representative samples. Do we see any sort of pattern from Folsom to the neighboring communities? And what we'd say is on the building side, building fees are frequently linked with this idea of magnitude of project, small project, medium project, larger project. As we go through and look at different magnitudes of projects, your fees today really do fall within the mid-range of what we're seeing in the region. And we think even with a proposed adjustment, you could remain in the mid-range. It's just a recalibration to your cost of service. On the planning side, we generally see, when we look at a handful of fees, we generally see you at the low end of the regional spectrum. And so there are adjustments made to planning fees, but even after those adjustments that we're talking about is for this initial discussion, what we see is you moving to the mid-range. You're not typically moving to the upper range, and it could vary fee by fee, but overall, this is sort of this general pattern we see in planning. You're at the low end, and you move yourself into the mid-range. And in the engineering world, most of your fee revenue comes and your cost recovery comes from this idea of reviewing improvement plans and reviewing improvements. And your fees for that service are in the mid-range. You could recalibrate them and remain in the mid-range. The idea here is to enhance your cost recovery. So it's not, it's recovering costs of services that are already being provided. And if we did adjust these fees and development patterns remain sort of consistent with what we have experienced historically, we would anticipate about $1.3 million in additional cost recovery. This concludes my portion of the presentation, but I'll be on standby. Thank you so much for your attention.
Mayor Kozlowski, members of the City Council, I'm Desmond Parrington, Planning Division. As Terry mentioned, we're going to go a little bit deeper into each area to talk about specific fee examples that you may be concerned about. So I'll begin and talk a little bit about the Planning Division, and then I'll be followed by our building and engineering staff as well to talk about their respective divisions. So backing up a little bit, as Josh had mentioned, in 2006, really that was the last time that there was any kind of comprehensive analysis of the fees. However, during the Great Recession in 2011, the community development director at the time brought forward and the council passed a resolution switching many of the planning fees to deposit-based fees and discussing, as it's spelled out in the Folsom Municipal Code in Chapter 3.5, about 100% cost recovery. The challenge that became apparent back then was because of the limited staffing and what was involved in dealing with deposit-based fees, because that staff report talked about individual development agreements with each applicant and then monthly billing. The staff after the Great Recession simply didn't have the resources to engage in that kind of that level of effort to recoup. And as a result, what they did was use essentially the base fee amount, which was an average fee amount, as the fee that was charged. At the time, they did not have the resources to do a comprehensive fee study to reevaluate the fees in light of the staff challenges with the deposit-based approach. As Josh mentioned, we have the grant now, which is why we brought Terry and his team in to look at this issue. As Terry mentioned, in most cases, we're moving to flat fees. Those are simpler for staff to administer, and they provide kind of a level of certainty up front to residents, businesses, and developers in terms of what the fee expectation is, as opposed to paying a base fee and then several months later getting additional fees later on. So most in the review and of the planning fees based on the staff time, most of the fees have gone up, and we'll talk about a couple of those in just a second. But some of them have gone down as well because, again, staff time was less than the original fee amount. So of particular note, with the increase in the number of appeals and the complexity of those appeals, that has resulted in a fairly significant increase in staff time. So that's something that we wanted to bring to your attention. Originally, if you were an owner occupant, then the appeal fee was $250, and if you were not the owner occupant, then anyone else would pay a $500 fee. But that was not covering, it was covering a fraction of staff time involved in these. So there's a fairly significant increase there. Again, based on kind of our averages over the last 5 years, those fees would go up significantly from $3,400 for an owner occupant to $6,800 for anyone else. That's assuming that it's an appeal of a commission action to the city council. One question that the city council, could consider if there's concerns about the fee level was, to what level the city should subsidize appeals. We've generally, generally the fees were adjusted up, but in some cases, particularly for smaller projects, or when we want to incentivize compliance, like in other words, we want folks to come in and talk with us and follow the proper processes, we have adjusted some of those fees down. And again, for smaller projects, the fees are not as great as for larger projects generally. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh, who's going to talk a bit about our special event permit fees.
Thanks, Desmond. All right, yeah, so one of the proposed fee changes we'd like to call out specifically is the fees for special event permits. The fee schedule currently calls for a $61 deposit for every special event. Based on the amount of staff involved in reviewing these permits, we've proposed a $500 base fee, which would cover about half of the staff time spent on a special event permit that we receive. But this is higher than the 25% recovery rate that's currently in Folsom Municipal Code, Chapter 3.50. We're then looking at the possibility of additional fees based on common elements that we see that take up the most amount of staff time that are not already being captured by existing fees. We certainly recognize the economic and community benefit of special events, so we did want to open up that discussion tonight to see what percentage of this staff time we wanted to recover in fees. So now I'd like to hand off the discussion to the Deputy Building Official, Allison Konwinski, to talk a little bit about the changes proposed for the building fees.
Good evening, Mayor Kozlowski and City Council members. I'd like to provide a brief overview of the building fees that were modified during the fee study by ClearSource. The fees that were primarily revised were the building plan check fee and permit issuance fee. Permit fees are applied to any building permit that is required by the California Building Code. These fees are charged to cover the cost of plan review and inspection services for code compliance. As with other jurisdictions in the area, we revised our fee structure to incorporate flat rate fees for common residential permits. These included HVAC changeouts, water heater replacements, swimming pool replasters, and electrical panel upgrades. The flat fee allows for easier calculation fees for staff and more predictable fees for applicants and contractors. We also restructured our fees related to subdivision development to align with the actual staff time and actual hourly rate utilized for each permit type. This includes permits such as master plans, production permits, and model home complexes. This is also in alignment with other jurisdictions in the area. ClearSource also looked at average amount of staff hours utilized for projects based on the construction valuation. Once that was determined, ClearSource updated the valuation-based fee table to align with hours estimated. This fee structure is utilized for any permit that does not have a previously mentioned flat rate fee. Lastly, as ClearSource and Josh mentioned, a technology fee has been added to maintain the electronic systems we currently have in place. Folsom currently allows for a fully online permitting process, allowing applicants to apply and pay for fees anywhere. ClearSource also updated the general plan and zoning code update fee to align with the other jurisdictions in the area and to maintain the city's general plan goals. I'd like to end with an example of what the technology and general plan fee would look like just for clarity. These fees are 5% of the permit fee, not the valuation of the project. For example, if you have a building permit fee of $100, the technology fee and the general plan fee would be $5 each, for a total of $10. Next, I would like to introduce City Engineer Rebecca Neves to discuss the engineering fees.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's great to see you all this evening. I'm Rebecca. I'm Rebecca Neves, your city engineer, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present the Engineering Division's proposed processing fee changes. So, although we are here to review changes in the fee values themselves, the biggest change to the engineering fees is actually the structure of the fees. So currently we have a limited categories for several different permit types, and consequently it leaves little room for the right kind of fee to be collected for the right kind of work. For example, as shown on page 21 of Appendix B in the attachment to staff's report, encroachment permits now contains several tiers to cover various types of requests and work we see throughout the city, including annual permits that are issued to large utility companies that we have working in the area. The intent of revising this structure was to allow for staff's effort to be captured under more involved permits, while still allowing work to commence at a reasonable and affordable fee for smaller work items, such as placing a packing pod in the city right-of-way while a resident prepares for a move. This tiered approach was also taken with our tree permit processing fees, allowing for smaller and more affordable permitting for the removal of a tree or two from potentially falling on a garage or a situation of the like, compared to a request for removing a much higher volume of trees. Again, these are just processing permit fees and not impact fees. Staff found that the tiered permit structure approach would allow for some flexibility in identifying an appropriate level of comfort, adequate cost recovery based on that effort, while not discouraging individuals from obtaining a permit in the first place. Where appropriate, we did include a time and materials basis for permit fees and inspections. This enables staff to consider unique and special situations and projects not covered under a current permit tier or subcategory. They like to keep us on our toes, and it's fun for us. So, staff assessed the level of effort in reviewing production and home landscape plans as well. And we found that when we laid out the subtasks to complete that, we found that they were fairly uniform from review to review. And so that we took that as a good sign and felt comfortable with proposing and implementing a fixed fee for that type of review instead of the previous method calculating the base fee on valuation. This approach does simplify and streamlines that part of the process for greater efficiency. We also updated our fees to reflect our city surveyor's billable rate. Our city surveyor, Mr. Jerry Young, is a diamond, and he provides mapping services that support all departments. He has also not raised his rate in over a decade, and we sincerely appreciate that. Maybe longer, and we're grateful for the work that he does for our city. So the proposed fees captures his billable rate. This concludes my portion of the presentation, and I will pass it on to Mr. Kincaid with our Planning Division. Thank you.
All right. So after we got our proposed fee schedule in place, we wanted to see how these new fees would apply to projects that have multiple fees involved with them. So we did run some actual projects that have come through our current and our proposed fee schedules. Those included an 800-lot subdivision, a multi-tenant shopping center, a remodel of a commercial building, a new custom home, and an accessory dwelling unit located in the historic district. We found that while development processing fees did go up substantially, when taking impact fees for the new development, which are not changing as we've stated, and project valuation into account, the overall project fees went up by up to 1% for the larger projects, as we can see here on the right. The accessory dwelling units did go up a bit more, but this is mostly because even though they are typically small buildings, a significant amount of staff time goes into reviewing and inspecting the structures and presenting staff reports for them to the Historic District Commission when they are located in the Historic District, of course. So some major takeaways of our proposed fee changes that I wanted to share. We believe that we've come up with some better categories of fees to reflect the actual work that goes into them. The fee study estimates that the proposed fee updates are legally justified by the data in the fee study and would result in about $1.3 million in annual general fund money. While user fees would go up an average of 40%, this does equate to 2 to 3% annual increase since 2006, which is the last time, as was stated, we comprehensively looked at fees. And as we noted earlier, user fees are typically a small percentage of the overall project costs. And again, as Terry stated, just to reiterate, the fees would put Folsom in the mid-range of what's charged regionally for the most part. The technology fee would be earmarked to directly support updating and improving our online submittal and processing programs, makes them more user-friendly and up-to-date, as well as our effort to digitally archive plans. And finally, I'll note that if fees for certain kinds of projects still do seem too high to the council, there is opportunity in the future to change some of the processes that have resulted in large amounts of staff time to move them from, for example, from a commission level to a staff level review, which would lower many fees substantially with the lower staff time involved. So in the time since we published the staff report and shared the fee study, we emailed a link of those documents to, as well as a notification of this workshop to all of our online applicants and users. We also met separately with 3 interest groups that could be potentially impacted by these fees. These groups included the North State Building Industry Association. In that meeting, they did suggest that council do a tiered rollout of these fees so that when they were adopted, they would be partially adopted, maybe halfway up to what would eventually be adopted at a future date. The Folsom Chamber of Commerce wanted a commitment that higher fees would lead to increased staff resources to ensure a quicker permit turnaround, and also asked that special event permit fees be reduced under certain scenarios that they shared with us. Finally, the Folsom Historic District Association, FHDA, also asked for lower special event permit fees for nonprofit organizations, and for some process changes to reduce the number of times they would have to pay these proposed fees each year with the amount of events that they submit. So looking forward, we do plan to come back to you on April 23rd with the final recommendation for action after this workshop today. If the new fees are adopted at the April meeting, we'd be providing the new information to the public in the following months, and the new fees would go into effect on July 1st in time for the new fiscal year. Finally, we referenced Chapter 3.50 of the Municipal Code a couple times in this presentation. That chapter currently prescribes specific percentages of full recovery for each city service, including 100% recovery rate for almost all community development fees. We'd like to propose an amendment to give council the discretion to lower fees below 100% recovery for either community benefit or economic development reasons as you see fit. And we'd be taking that forward at the meeting for the first reading on the 23rd as well. So with all that information, we're now seeking council direction at tonight's workshop as to how to proceed with the fee schedule modifications. As was noted before, staff is proposing less than full cost recovery on a handful of our fees, either incentivize people to do things the right way and come and get a permit, or for economic development or community benefit reasons. If you as a council feel that any fee levels are too high, we'd like to know which ones you'd want lowered for these same reasons, essentially. We'd incorporate those changes into a modified fee schedule and present them to you on the 23rd, along with the code modification. So with that, we do have all the staff who presented tonight, as well as our director, and Terry from ClearSource here to answer any questions and start the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, it's a lot to take in. Thank
It
you
is.
very much to all of you. We got the whole staff here tonight. So any questions from the council? And let me start on my right, actually, this time. Mr. Chalam-Charla, anything right off the bat as questions?
No, I have few.
We have some public comment that
Yeah.
wants to be made as well, so that's why I'm saying questions
Right.
or clarifications.
No, I'll wait for.
Okay, excellent. Madam Vice Mayor?
Yes, I have several questions. Thank you. Very, very good information. Could you go back to, I think, slide 23, please? So I like these slides that show us in comparison to other cities, and I know you can't do that for every single category. I didn't see in the staff report, unless I missed it, how we compare with other cities in terms of the special event fees. I do think that would be important for us to see before we vote on this, because we want to be competitive with them, obviously. But my question is, so I understand we can't recover more than 100% of what it costs to provide the service, right? And every other jurisdiction is subject to that also. So sometimes I'm just wondering how sometimes there are wide disparities. So if you look at like this one, engineering, our current fee is 6 to 7% of the project, I guess, proposing to go to 8%. Elk Grove is 10.5 to 18%. Rancho Cordova is 7%. But then you see Rockland up here at 21%. So are we, in this particular category, are we not seeking 100% cost recovery? Is Rockland doing something in their process that's costing a lot more than what we do? There's a couple scenarios where you see this, where there's a wide disparity, and I'm just wondering why that is. Maybe Terry wants to take that.
So we did not set Rockland's fees, so I can't speak specifically to that, but I can say that generally, what you notice is that Rockland's fee, when you see a high number, it's at a low improvement valuation threshold. So you see, we were talking about like these tiers of small project, medium-sized project, large project. What this is sort of indicating is that Rockland believes that even a small project has an intensive level of effort associated with it. And that may be totally reasonable. So we're using reasonable estimates. That may be totally reasonable. When we were looking at Folsom's recovery levels and Folsom's costs, we didn't see a need to make such, you can see Folsom's number of 8% is at the low end, and when you get to the high end of the spectrum, it's 3 or 4%. So there is this same idea of a low-end project still has a level of effort associated with it. We just didn't find it as large of a magnitude from a percentage perspective.
Okay. Let's see. Also, I think maybe, I don't know who wants to work the thing, but maybe I think it might be around slide 29, you talked about the ADUs. And so is this the ADU that is greater than 16 feet or whatever? Let me go to page 34.
Yes, we chose an ADU that goes to Historic District Commission to try to capture that existing and proposed fee.
Okay, so if I'm reading this chart right now, the fee is $61, and it's gonna go to $3,400. So this $6,700 that you have, that must be made up of something besides what I'm looking at.
Yes, it's building permit fees plus planning fees, the
Okay.
entitlement fees.
And so, because of state law and we have limited ability to influence things as much as we used to, right? Is there a way where we could say, if you use one of these plans that we, kind of one of our cookie cutter plans, you're going to get it expedited in time, you're going to pay a lower fee than that, because that's kind of a, $6,700 is a chunk of change for an ADU. But if we want them to have a certain look and a certain size and a certain feel, maybe we say, hey, if you're willing to do this, the fee is only this amount and you get expedited permit. Is that possible?
I think we can look into, I think I understand what you're asking for. We don't have the prototype approved plan set like they have in some jurisdictions, and we've talked about that and good reasons why we haven't done it. But I think we can take your comment and look at whether maybe there is some tiered level where if certain design criteria is met or qualifications are met, it has like a streamlined process, but also a lower review, like a lower processing fee. So incentivizing it is what you're saying. So we can definitely look into that. It's a good comment.
Okay. And then my other question, in light of all these conversations we're having lately about budget and the need for more staff and all this kind of stuff, there's a flip side of that we don't talk about as much, and that is reducing the size and scope of government. So my question for you is, what is on this list that can come off? What can we say, we're no longer doing that? We're letting the free market take care of it. We're putting the responsibility back on the resident or the property owner. And I realize that this is just the fee list, and there are probably corresponding resolutions and ordinances and all these things that have to go with it. But just off the top of my head, I'm looking at these. The sidewalk vendor permit. I was vocally opposed to that. I was the lone vote against that. And that fee is not proposed to change. $50 now, $50 is what you're proposing. But in 3 years, we've issued one sidewalk vendor permit, which means that either people don't know they're supposed to have them, or they know and they don't care, and we aren't enforcing it. So what is the point of having the fee? In my opinion, get rid of the ordinance, get rid of the fee. Before I vote on this, I'm curious to know how many home occupation permit fees do we issue annually? How many indoor marijuana cultivation permit? I don't think people who are growing marijuana in their homes are coming to the city for a permit. I know you can do it by state law, but I'm guessing we don't issue many of those permits. Large family daycare homes. I'm assuming they have to get licensed by the state. Do we need to issue them a permit for something? I'm not really sure. So those are kind of the things that I wonder about. Also, landmark tree classification. I think in the 5.5 years that I've been on the council, we've only done it where it's been proposed by the city, and so we waive the fee. And so, again, I'm just wondering, what can we take off this list to kind of reduce the scope of services that we're providing? And I know the counter argument is going to be, well, we don't issue very many of those permits, so they're not taking a lot of staff time. But to me, this is kind of the, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Well, how do you reduce the scope of government? One fee and one service at a time. The other thing that I'm kind of curious about, on page 36 of your staff report, it talked about a fee for an alcohol/ABC permit. Currently, we charge $0, but it's going to go to $324. But we don't issue those permits, right? Don't you have to get, so why are we charging a fee for that? I'm curious about. Also, you have block party permit going from $61 to $100. I don't know exactly what's involved. Like if I wanted to close off my cul-de-sac or my street for a party, I don't know what's involved. But I really hate the idea of increasing a fee on something that's promoting community and neighborly relations and all that kind of stuff. And then also, back to my thing of things that we might be able to cut, an unattended donation box. I don't know where that is or what it is, but it's proposed to go from $196 to $300. I mean, I don't know if that's like goodwill type thing or what that is. But that is a long-winded way of saying, what can we take off this list and reduce the scope of services that the Community Development Department is providing?
That's
all I
a
have.
great set of questions and comments, and we really appreciate it on a lot of levels, because that's what we need from you this evening. If you all have specific items that you feel strongly about, we'll take all of that information and we'll bring that recommendation back to you with information. We have been talking and thinking about what we can do to reduce processes and costs and eliminate, a burden. So we think about it too. We've been thinking about it in the context of the zoning code update. And so we do have thoughts and recommendations, but if you have ideas you want to share with us on that front, or that you for sure want us to look at ways we can do that, please share those thoughts this evening, and then we'll come back to you with some solutions.
Thank you.
Anna?
I do. Did this go to the Planning Commission for input?
No, it does not. It's not required to go to the Planning Commission for input.
That would be something, I mean, is there a reason that we didn't bring it to the Planning Commission? I understand it's not required.
Yeah, I mean, you're the fee authority, so yeah, that's why.
Okay. It would, they deal with a lot of these land use issues and things like that, and more permitting than we do up here on the dais, but, or maybe they don't.
Some, but not all. A small percentage of them are items that would come before them. So the things that are listed as planning fees, some of those are things, entitlements that would come before them, but not all of them.
Okay.
So only a small percentage of these would be before the commission.
Okay, I'll have to think about that. The other thing that's glaring to me is, making changes to this. I think, I wish we could have done this a while ago too, but, thank you for the people that did the study and for, making this happen. But the special event permit, why is that in this? That seems like it should be Parks and Rec, it should be a separate study. It's so much connected to our Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it seems very odd that it's incorporated in this.
Yeah, I mean, community development's been the house for this because we have the permit processing technology and fee structure, and so we've been the facilitators. But we don't, when you see a set of comments, it doesn't typically include much from community development. It's really all the other departments. But that's something we do, is we just facilitate that process because we have the structure set up to do it.
Okay. So my input on that is we're almost going from zero. I mean, $61 isn't zero, but to very large increases. So this is of concern to me. I think there's a lot of public comment coming in on that tonight. But this is the one part that, out of everything, that I would want to come back and really discuss the impacts, and maybe even have a public workshop of the input on this, because this is going to attract many of the community things that make Folsom Folsom. And, I would hate to see some of those things not happen because of the increase in these permit fees. So this particular part is my concern, but I know we're going to hear questions and have time to discuss, but, I did appreciate some of the items that Sarah had said, why do we even have this? So I would love to hear your guys' input too. I mean, I'm sure you have more, and hopefully you'll present that in a couple weeks or in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think some of the items we can probably respond to tonight, so I'll just let the teams kind of all taking notes, and some of these things we can probably just answer a question, but we'll bring information back. And on the special event, you're absolutely right. We have had a lot of interest, from the community, but also from the staff, because for the team of people that review this, it's not an easy thing. And we are, feeling the same budget constraints all of you are, and trying to be good stewards of the public's money. And so we are trying to get to a better cost recovery system. It's not at all cost recovery now. We're trying to get to what we've identified as 50% cost recovery, and then tagging costs onto larger events, or events that, have a bigger impact, as opposed to a one-size-fits-all. So that was the objective of the team, the city team that provided input on this. But we absolutely should have a discussion, and that's the discretion of this council to decide that something is going to be less than 100% cost recovery. Yeah. So, thank you.
Okay, Rosario.
Well, Pam just answered my question, because I had a question about the $500 And it was at estimating half of the cost of what it is to do the staffing.
Yeah, Josh, did I get it
Yeah.
right? It's 50%.
Okay, that was just my question. Thank you.
Okay, all right, let's do public comment. Mr. Miklos, I moved you to the top of the list if you'd like the luxury of speaking first. Certainly. Just offering that up.
Okay, so our first speaker will be Judy Collinsworth, who will be followed by Steve Miklos, who will be followed by Gloria Cunningham.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Judy Collinsworth, and I'm the Executive Director of the Folsom Historic District Association. I'm here tonight to discuss the potential rate increases for event permits. FHDA currently produces approximately 17 annual events, and we're really proud to say that those are mostly free family and fun events. We do charge for 2 small events, and then we do charge for our ice rink. We currently spend $1,900 in city event permit fees, and those same events under the new recommendations would cost our nonprofit over $17,000 for the same events. We host events to bring joy and vibrancy to our community, and our events are critical for our small businesses in historic Folsom. The FHDA understands the costs have risen and that some adjustments need to be considered. Several of our board members have met with the city staff about this, and we believe that we can streamline the event review process very easily. FHDA can submit all of our permits, traffic control plans, and maps at the beginning of the year. The footprints and basics of our events don't change much, resulting in reduced staff time and in this one-time review. Currently, our permits are turned in about 2 months before an event, and they trickle in all year long, and this could be so easily streamlined. We agree that it will take time to process new event permits, and a higher permit fee should be charged. However, $500 for an event permit plus the other fees add up to as much as $3,100 in permits alone for just one event. Keep in mind the current fee is $61, so this is quite a difference. The larger proposed fees could cause Folsom to lose entertainment opportunities, which in turn means the city will lose sales tax and businesses will lose opportunities for additional revenue as well. And we all know that keeping historic businesses vibrant and flourishing has always been a priority for the city of Folsom. New events can be more complicated and time-consuming, and we do agree again that a higher reasonable fee should be charged for that review. The proposed severe increase in this event permit fee will, without hesitation, result in many events being discontinued. Some of our events have been happening for more than 55 years and are part of the fabric that makes Folsom such a special community. So we hope that you'll consider our concerns and ask that you not accept the proposed fee schedule. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Steve Miklos, who'll be followed by Gloria Cunningham, who'll be followed by Lori Durant.
Welcome home, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. I never thought I'd be here again. No, and actually, I have to compliment all the stuff I've heard you guys talk about already. And to Pam's point, I don't only come here with ideas and suggestions, I come with suggestions for solutions to the problem, similar to what you guys all have to do every time you're up there. And as Judy just said, the biggest concern we have, if you just look at the base fee structure, $61 to $500, and in totality, to make a very simple math, that's a 109,000% increase. That's unconscionable. And to your point, Sarah, and you took some of my thunder already, we provide community events to bring the community together. Most of us made their decisions to move here about a whole lot of things in the city. And for me personally, it was having brunch on the Balcony Restaurant on Sutter Street. That is the jewel of the city, and it's always been our policies for my 24 years on the city council. I heard you guys mention it before. We have to keep our historic district vibrant and to continue to increase fees or take programs away because the fees are too high. We're going to lose sponsorships because at a certain point, the sponsors go, why do I want to pay this? Because we're paying more fees and more fees and more fees to produce the same program, which 95% of every year are the same exact programs. So solution number one, remove the event fee process from the planning department. Because the full cost recovery for the municipal code is for the community development department. It's not systemic for all the departments in the city. And I know that for a fact. Robert Goss, if he was still here, would know that because we have a lot of programs we don't charge full recovery fee for because then we couldn't produce those programs or those opportunities to the community. They can't afford everything. So for, number one, take that out because really if you look at what is the function during a permit review, okay, if they need a traffic or street closure report, that's not the planning department. That's done when they build the project. That's the focus of Public Works and the police department. And I spoke to many members already and confirmed that. There's no need for new streets. There's no need for, in fact, to that traffic street closure plan. Why, except for possibly a new event, are we requiring a traffic study or a street closure report on every single project that happens down there when we have, and we all know, thousands and thousands of traffic studies reports of many, many events we've done, including Amgen, the CIM, Turkey Trot, all the other walks and runs and the things that we do throughout the city. Go down to Public Works, pull one off the shelf that's indicative of what the event is on Sutter Street. We don't need to keep charging for those things. So, Sarah, I loved your comment. What can we take off the board? Almost all of that. And to charge a review fee for something that's done every single year, including the ones that have been on for 55 years. So every time the event comes up next year, we're going to charge a review fee for $400 for an event that's 55 years old, 10 years old, 15 years, whatever the case may be. So I think there's a number one, we can free up staff time and you guys. And so my request from the council is to consider bifurcating the event fee study from the community development fee structure study, period. And I do have to say, I do agree with the staff about increases in the fees for those three departments because of the recession and other opportunities we had to do what we had to do to keep the city vibrant and move things around. Take that program that you have, Pam, and share it with either Public Works or Police Department or whatever departments or whatever committee you guys decide is a review committee for these events. And that frees up your staff, takes some time away from going to the ABC thing. I told you, you just kind of fit right in for me. An ABC permit, as an example, for a one-day beer and wine permit event, I'm sorry, I'm over, is $50 to the ABC. Then it goes to the police department for their review. And after their review, they forward to the city manager's office for him or hers review, okay? When you look at totality for that, it might cost completely with city's time. And I know the manager is very valuable and we appreciate that. I know you have to look at things like that too, just like Everett and Carey and all the other managers did. But let's say the total time, if you take their time, whatever, might cost $100 to $200 worth of their actual hourly time to do that. But to go from $0 to $324, I can't justify that. There's other things in here that I'd love to come back and hopefully have a separate workshop focused on the event fees and all the importance of those fees. I'm not going to bore you with any more stuff because a lot's already been said. But those are just some of the ideas that just don't make a lot of sense. But if we can free up staff time, which I just gave you a solution, you guys obviously have the work to come up with a solution. Look at the fee structure, look at what's reasonable, but most importantly, look at what we may be eliminating because we're charging too much. And I understand there's the region does other things. Okay, that's the region. But the region doesn't necessarily have what we have. We don't have what they have. So it really has to be indicative of what we have, what we're trying to provide. And most of the stuff we're talking about here are free events to the community. Free. That's something that's always made Folsom on the map. Go to Folsom, they have all these free events.
I suspect you're going to find wide agreement.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Thank
that.
you very
That's
much for
like I
your
said,
comments.
I cut out a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff you guys already said I didn't need to repeat. So thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to continuing the conversation and hopefully come up with a structure that keeps Folsom as vibrant as it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Gloria Cunningham, who'll be followed by Lori Durant, who'll be followed by Vance Jared.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. My name is Gloria Cunningham. I am a merchant of the Historic District, and I feel like I am going to be preaching to the choir tonight. I have met several of you, Councilwoman Rodriguez, Councilwoman Rohrbach, and Councilwoman Aquino at our district meetings. So I know that you love the district, and I know that you are passionate about it as much as we are. So thank you for coming to our meetings. So I've been in the district for 3 years. I have a shop on Sutter Street that I love, and I love the district. It is, besides the retail shops and the family-owned restaurants, and the nightlife is so fun, the crown is the fact that we have so many free events. And I feel like I also, let me back up. The free events for sure. As a merchant, those days that we have these events, our sales are exponentially higher than a regular day. And it means so much to me as a small business that I can make money on these great days. But I feel like I also have a unique perspective in that I have helped put on some of these events. So in November, as Councilwoman Rodriguez knows as well, we put on an event. It was the first one, our Dia de los Muertos event, and it was a shoestring budget and a wing and a prayer and the generosity of sponsors and the historic district that helped us to put it on. I saw the prices for the fees, and it's a little bit scary. I feel like I'm in the wrong business. I should be like figuring out how to apply fees. I just want to say that please reconsider, please consider fees, especially when it comes to the district and merchants and the vibrancy of historic Folsom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker will be Lori Durant, who'll be followed by Vance Jared, who'll be followed by Mike Reynolds.
Hi, Council. Thank you for what you do, and members. My name's Lori Durant, and I live in Folsom. I've been here for about the last 12 years. I've also worked on Sutter Street for about the last 7. I've been there since May of 2017. And one of the things I think, the perspective that I've seen is pretty much what you've already heard. And that is basically, let's try not to raise those fees too high. Not only can I see a difference, I manage a small tasting room, I just put it that way. When we have one of these events going, I could swing from $300 to $3,000 to possibly $5,000, depending who I've got with me. It's huge. Then there's days that we hardly make anything. So not only am I speaking from the merchant's point of view, it's also the employee. It's hard. We all know that. I know the fees haven't been, it's been since 2006, but this is going to kill us in a really bad way. I think we can do a little bit better somehow. Maintaining affordable permit fees for the historic district is crucial. When we have special events in the district, it's a lifeline for a lot of us merchants, and we really are working hard to keep it going. The events bring foot traffic into our business and can make a difference in a day. Like I said, it'll swing widely when we have a lot of foot traffic. The proposed increase in fees could be detrimental for future business. People won't come. If we have to reduce our event calendar, it would be a real loss to our community, who gets to experience a very unique calendar of events. As you know, Judy's told you, 50 plus years. There's not a lot of towns that can boast this kind of stuff here. We have such a gem here. Downtown Folsom, especially the calendar events in a historic setting. The historic setting is the biggest thing we've got going on. Downtown Folsom is so integral to the community of Folsom that we want to grow it and not reduce what we do. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Vance Gerard, followed by Mike Reynolds, followed by Joe Gagliardi.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I hate to shift the discussion from event fees, but on a personal level, I'll just say they have me convinced. Vance Gerard with the North State Building Industry Association, representing more than 500 member companies in the home building industry. I know you know that, but they like it when I say it. I am not here to argue against the fees that have been proposed. I want to thank staff for taking the time to make the presentation to the BIA and keep themselves readily available since then to answer some of my more annoying, persistent questions. They've really been terrific. In general, it is the position of the BIA that we understand the need of the city to recover the cost of providing a service, and we're not going to get in the way of that need. What we do typically see, though, is that fees throughout the region do remain high overall. For that reason, we do suggest when fee adjustments like this are made that they are phased in over time. We have made similar requests recently to Rockland and El Dorado County, who were open to that as well. As you can see in the presentation, the general fees for service could shift around up to $1 million, which has the real potential to shift the potential of a project very quickly. The price out index that our National Association of Home Builders does every year finds that for every $1,000 the cost of a home is increased, over 500 families in this region alone are priced out of being able to afford that home. So phasing in over time will allow our builders to plan more accordingly, to take on this burden over time and to work with the city in implementing a little easier. With that, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker will be Mike Reynolds, who'll be followed by Joe Gagliardi, who will be followed by Jim Snook.
Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me come up here and speak. So as I was looking through the report and, listening to the speakers, the thing that was pinging around in my mind was let's feed the public to death. I mean, it was really sort of ridiculous when you look at the laundry list of what is on here. And sort of to take on Councilwoman Aquino's point that we're going after everything we can tax to get money. And the question that I stand back and ask is it because of our revenue situation, which we know has been discussed at previous council meetings, that we're going to fee the public to try and make that up to the tune of what? 1.3 million versus standing up and saying, hey, we're going to endorse a half cent or a full cent sales tax because many of these things are for the general welfare of the public and should be supported by the government without a fee, right? And then there's a piece of, is there a short-term gain to a long-term detriment? So if I go charge $300 now for a street block off, which is likely going to the city and getting a piece of paper, no labor, and then they don't have those, and so now they don't buy catering, they don't buy alcohol, they don't hire a band, and so the amount of economic value lost for the short-term game of $200 or $300, is that really worth it if this is how many things we're going to go tax? So it's something to keep in mind. Not to mention, do we kill the joy of the city by permitting everything to the point where no one wants to do anything? To address a couple specifically, and maybe Director Johns can highlight this, I didn't see something about like permit expiration and fees. So we know there's been numerous instances of, let's say, a building being permitted and brought to the HDC in 2017, and yet by 2023 it's brought back again for the third and fourth time. And I'm pretty sure that that Mr. Parrington has told me before, there is no fee rehit if that permit expires, and so the staff time goes over and over again, and it doesn't incent the project owners or anybody else to make large moves. It incents them to do incremental moves because they know they don't have to pay a fee again to bring that same project over and over. So is there a permit expiration, you re-up the fee or a certain percentage of the fee if your permit expires? I didn't see that in there, but maybe it is and I just missed the information. The appeals fees concerns me a great deal. I realize they can logjam the process and it probably has swung pendulum-wise somewhat to the liberal side, but on the opposite end of it, if it goes to $6,800, the only people who appeal will be the corporate people who have the money. And so what they'll look at the HDC and they'll say, I don't like the ruling. I can afford the $6,800. I'll appeal it to the de novo and get the answer I want. The average citizen or the city historic district group will not be able to afford that. So essentially, you will hobble their ability to sort of hold things in check. And I realize there's a balance. So maybe it's number of fees times you go. Maybe the first one's 1,000. If you go again, it goes up. But 6,800 is egregious and not fair. And I think that's my list. Oh, the last one. Value for services provided. So the building permits where the staff has to work, really obvious why you'd want to increase those fees. I saw examples of landscaping, dollar amount spent, plan reviews. So if I want to go hire a blueprint for $1,000 and put new trees in my yard, you're going to charge me $600 to go do that. Again, it seems like that is a huge government overreach into people's business for the things that they should just be able to do on their own. Why are we having fees and permits when the city literally adds no value in that instance? So just some instances to think about. That's all.
Okay, next speaker will be Joe Gagliardi, who'll be followed by Jim Snook.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. A lot of what I had to say has already been said, but I wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, special events are really an important part of the brand of Folsom, not only for the FHDA and other organizations, nonprofit organizations, but there's a lot of people that are doing events here. And my concern is if you raise the fee too high, they'll go away. And a few of those that are even under consideration right now are the CIM. So the cost of putting on the CIM is incredible, especially through the portion through the city of Folsom. And when you're looking at these fees, you aren't including other fees that include, you know, is there a police fee? Is there a fire fee? Is there a fee for the Parks and Rec? And I'll cite one example that you may or may not know, but there's a 50-mile run that runs through town. About a half mile of it goes through Folsom. And for every runner, the city of Folsom Parks and Rec charges $3 per runner to pass through that half mile of a 50-mile stage. So it's stuff like that that people start to say, why are we doing this any longer? Why don't we reroute? And that's one of my concerns, because we end up drawing people that stay in our hotels. And the other thing I would say relative to special events is not all events are the same. You heard about repeat events. If we come through every year with the same exact thing, why would we have to pay it based on something that we've repeated? We have a traffic plan for the rodeo we've used every year. And I don't know why you would have to review it. It's the same. Same thing with FHDA when they do an event. The other thing I would mention from an economic development standpoint, when you're looking at the fees, if those fees are garnered by the Community Development Department, that actually go towards them being able to provide a higher level of staffing. And I would encourage accountability on the time frame. So if there's going to be increased funding so that they can do things more efficiently, then there's some kind of guarantee on the time frame that gets turned around. The biggest cost to a business is time. And if they goes into a black hole, even though they have more staffing, but there's no accountability on when you can get that back, that's cost the business money. So if there could be something associated with that. The other thing is, if this analysis was done today, in 2 years, maybe it needs to be done again, because maybe it could get lowered because they become more efficient. And so one of the challenges with government is you put a fee in place and then no one ever goes and revisits it. And there could be a cost reduction through some of the things you mentioned, Sarah, or just through better efficiencies on how that's done. And then that the fees actually, whatever it comes out, hopefully it's not a whole lot, it gets phased in. So, thank you.
Okay, your last speaker on this item will be Jim Snook.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I guess I get to wrap this up. Jim Snook, merchant down there in historic Folsom. I'm also currently the president of the FHDA. I'd like to thank the community development staff for meeting with us in advance. And we had some great interactions and talked about maybe bundling or, like Judy said, streamlining. These events are economic drivers for our district. And as you heard, I'm not going to go into what everybody's already said. It brings business. And that's our job as an association, is to bring feet on the street. And similar to some of the decisions you're making, we do some events that maybe make a little money, but we do other events that we don't make money, but it brings feet on the street and people into businesses. So sometimes we have to, be a little...
Spend money to make money?
Spend money to bring it into the businesses. So that's our overall goal, to bring vitality. So Other than that, I just wanted to thank them again. And everything I think has already been said about how great these events are. One thing I'd like to share is that I've been in the district a long, long time, and we've been doing events for decades. And we have already incurred a lot of expenses because mostly due to public safety, but this isn't something that's part of the permit process. These are things that, police, fire have made us do, which it's public safety and we understand. Like the traffic plans, we've had some, sometimes one-time costs to develop all that. But the ongoing is if we do a street closure, we have to staff all those barricades. If you go back 10 years, maybe a little longer than that. We used to put barricades up, but now, some of like these early morning events, the Christmas craft fair, they're out there in the wee hours of the morning. We have to staff it all day. It takes several shifts. It's a substantial cost to the event. It doesn't have anything to do with permits, but so we have incurred those costs, and we've had to do that, and we understand that. And the public safety factor, we understand. But anyways, I just wanted to share that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to bring it back for further comment from the council, but I wanted to share a couple of thoughts that I have first, if that's all right. It seems it seems pretty plain that we need to probably separate the decision about treating the fees into at least a couple of buckets. The event thing obviously should come as a separate action item to us. And then with regard to the remainder of community development's purview, it feels to me like the building and engineering reviews can be dealt with as a segment, and then the planning reviews as a separate segment, because I feel like there's a pretty high likelihood that some process changes within what we review and who reviews it, and when we go into depth on certain types of reviews within the planning process may give some opportunities for efficiency that can mute some of this a little bit. So I would suggest that maybe we handle those as three pieces. So building and engineering, community planning, and then events. I'm inclined to agree with the audience that the event fees in and of themselves are a good, in spite of the fact that it was suggested that we close the zoo earlier tonight. So not everything is a profit center for us. I flippantly will suggest that if a licensed architect or engineer prepares a set of plans, they should be held accountable for its compliance with building code rather than a deep, in-depth review by our staff. So I could see some efficiency there if we held those people that hold licenses issued at great cost and anxiety by the state of California were held to do their job. And then it seems like we definitely should revisit this at least biannually in terms of how the fees stack up against the costs, so that we're not doing it on a 14-year cycle. And then just as for the city attorney, I have a question. Would there be a way, in lieu of letting the pendulum swing too far to the other side on the appeals process cost, would it be possible to institute a indemnification requirement that by appealing, whatever the cost may be, small or large, that person was agreeing to accept the decision of the city council and not further appeal it through court action? Is that something that we could actually institute or request?
You certainly can, Mr. Mayor, because we're a charter city, so you set the rules pertaining to how those appeal hearings are to proceed. And hence, you can have a provision in the municipal code that cuts off further appeals. It's entirely up to you.
Okay. I would be inclined to consider keeping that appeal cost relatively low so everybody had access to it, to Mr. Reynolds' point, but only with the agreement that An appeal to the city council was the last stage.
And sometimes they, if I may, sir, it's probably not going to be in agreement. It's going to be a city council set law in the ordinance. This is how many times you may appeal in a year or whatever amount of time. However, it does not. It would not prohibit another neighbor, another resident from filing an appeal.
I'm suggesting taking court action separate on top of the appeal.
I'm sorry.
Trying to
I
neuter
understand
that
now.
possibility.
The
Is
answer
that
to that
something that
is-
we can do?
I appreciate that, sir. The answer to that question is no. The court always have jurisdiction to review city council actions.
For process infractions or for the
City council
decision
decisions.
itself?
City council decisions.
Okay.
Yes, sir. There's always judicial remedy.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Very good. And then, so streamlining. Yeah, please don't make a technology fee. Just bake that cost into everything else. I hate Ticketmaster. That's why I hate Ticketmaster, because you buy a ticket and then they pile event fee, venue fee, catering fee, it's 27 other things onto it. Is there some reason why it has to be isolated and identified?
I don't know, but give me some time to talk to my team. I'm sure we'll come up with some good answers. Desmond looks like he wants to
Build it
address
into the
that.
budget and just make if the permit fee is supposed to be 100, make it 105.
So as we talked about with our consultant, part of this is we're in an unusual situation because of the nature of the technology that we have right now. So
Oh, I understand the expense
Yeah.
and why it's necessary. I just don't like the idea of having an itemized thing on everybody's bill for that particular purpose when it is a back of house general conditions kind of thing that cost of, it's part of our necessity to do our jobs, right? We don't have a chair fee for everybody having a chair, right? So.
Yeah, so what we did was we looked at other jurisdictions in terms of how they handle the issue. But you're right, the way that technology is moving with more of it becoming an annual fee as opposed to a one-time upfront charge. The problem is we're stuck in between technology systems.
Is it necessary to communicate what our subscription fees are to the public, and do you anticipate having to change that fee so regularly that it needs to be its own thing? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so for right now, yes, but probably in a couple of years, the answer would be no. And the reason that's confusing is because the way that technology is, the way that the current technology that we have right now, let me see if I can explain this simply. We bought a bunch of technology, software programs, and then we have to update those software programs.
Yes.
Instead, most technology companies are now moving to a model where you pay an annual subscription fee. We haven't yet moved to that because there's a cost associated with moving to that. When we move to that annual subscription fee, then you're right, we would get rid of the technology fee and it would be baked into our overhead. But because we have to buy the software one time and then buy upgrades to it another time, it fluctuates so much. It's not an ongoing annual level right now. And Terry may be able to explain this better, but
Listen,
yes.
so the alternative, just my suggestion
Yeah.
to you, is that if our cost recovery percentage will be for the next year 55.23%, and subsequent years it'll be 55.03% because we have absorbed this cost, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to, I don't feel, to your point, I don't feel the need to create more named fees.
Yeah.
That's all in this instance, because my clumsy analogy, we don't have a chair fee, even though we buy those periodically, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
All right, so that one, and I definitely like the idea of phasing the permit fee increases in over some period of time. I think that's appropriate in this case, so.
Agree.
Okay. Okay, any other comments? Ms. Rohrbach?
No, just what I said earlier. I mean, I think the special event fees are off, and actually, and I would say that I mean, it's not even that late compared to our council meetings. The cost went from whatever it was to 6,100 to appeal. Is that what I heard Bob say? And I missed that one. Or I'm sorry, Mike say. And that seems a little bit extreme as well. So those would be the two outside of a few of the things that Sarah said.
That one's a
And
pretty big pendulum swing, yeah. Okay. Thoughts, comments?
Oh, sure. I'll go by section. I'm glad, we are able to hear from the public. I'll go last in first. Appeal I wrote down as well. I like the way you said.
A more regular one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in support. Let the public, be given some liberty to appeal the lower decisions to city council. But still, we have to put some framework around which one is that. What is that framework? We got to talk. That's one. Not this upcast. That's one. That's the one I made a last one. Going through the list of things, a building fee, as Josh, since our team did already a discussion with them, there is not much naysaying from that, but they want to phase out, which is in agreement. The biggest one is though, as everybody talked, some fees people don't know what it means. We as a city probably has to put some communication to make sure my water heater change. I don't think so many people in the town knows it requires a permit. Putting the public safety into everyone's mind, the neighborhood into everyone's mind, they must come to City Hall at least to go through that safety perspective. And for those kind of things, the fee should be the lowest of lowest. So irrespective whether other cities are charging or not, but the big piece is, the safety and the fire department, those kind of things. I'm not going line by line here, but I'm just giving the overall perspective of the safety perspective. Keep the lowest of lowest, make the more communications repeatedly to the residents. That's one. And in one of the sections, there is a fee for initial meetings, $200. No, invite people to come. Let's go and talk to Folsom. Let's see what happens. Open the doors for the people to come. Yes, that's what the cost of doing business is. I think as Mike was mentioning, our mayor, technology fee, oh no, that's cost of doing the business, right? We got to bake that one. Initial fee for any discussions, I personally don't feel it. Let the people come and let's go and explore in Folsom. That's another one. And I think most of the residents talked about the special events. If it is a brand new event, maybe you can put the initial surcharge fee only. And the following repeated, the example we gave 55 times, it should be very normal. So at least we can recover the cost at the first time. That's one. But the overall goal though, Pam, not to going through the line by line here, we want the Folsom a destination city for entertainment. That helps, one, community good. People always feel like, I think as Sarah was mentioning, the cul-de-sac close and all those, yes, we can go and have a fun, that kind of thing. Another thing also, I think one of the business owners said, on that day night, that's her maximum sales, help the small businesses. So having said that, the event costs should be keep as is in my mind, the lowest of lowest. And yes, we have to cost recover. As I'm looking at the numbers here, building, and if you exclude that one, I think you are going to recover quite a bit of cost already. And I was just, casually mentioning to city manager, when I was doing the agenda review. Few weeks ago, we put a surcharge on credit card use and debit card use. There is already people feeling, and they have heard enough times there is a sales tax driven coming, either from the city driven or citizens driven. And this is one more coming. I was feeling, to be honest with you, we waited from 2006 until today. And now we are going, either us as a city council or public, another sales tax increase. In my personal opinion, this could have put off another 6 months. Because otherwise, how the people feel about, some layoffs from the Intel and, all those, the inflations and all those, people frustrate. So that's my personal thing. I do see it. It is coming back in April 23rd. Mayor, that's a request. As so many things going on, can we put off some?
Yeah, not a bad idea.
That's my request. Pam, I'm not giving line by line though, but I'm giving at the overarching side. Safety side, destination, and welcome the people to go and talk to Folsom. That's my thing. Since this slide is here, that impact fee, we don't have to worry, right? Yeah, okay, that's a big number there, 36 millions. So that's why, thank you.
Excellent.
Mayor, I think that's
Yeah, as we consider, and I'll get to you in just one second, as we consider when to bring each of those three things, those three buckets I was suggesting, we don't necessarily have to have them all at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
And
Thank you.
maybe it is best that at least one of those gets pushed off a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah?
So I agree that the special event permit needs to be reworked, and I think, maybe a deeper discount for repeat events where there's, not a lot of change to the footprint and the traffic pattern and all that kind of stuff. Also, there's something in here for an entertainment permit. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it seems like it should be with the special event permit, and it's on a different page. With regard to the appeal fee, it sounds like there's some interest in reducing that. I am okay with reducing from what is proposed, but I think it needs to be significantly more than what it is today. Because those appeals take significant staff time, but also I think the other advantage to having a higher appeal fee is it encourages people to get involved earlier in the process. Too often somebody doesn't go to the commission meeting, but then they appeal the decision to the city council, where they could have possibly influenced the project if they had gone to the commission meeting and participated. The other thing that we talked a little bit about ADUs, and is there a way to kind of have this, approved thing and you get a lower fee and a quicker permit, but there's also like a half page here about signs. And I wonder about that too, maybe if it's within this size and this material and this whatever, because that's another area to me where, we have all these rules, but we don't enforce them because we don't have the code enforcement staff to do it, And I've said it before and I'll say it again. My philosophy is have as few rules as possible, but enforce them absolutely, which is why we cannot have a
Street vendor permit.
Thank you. Yes. That's it. Thank you.
I'll be your straight man anytime. Okay. Not sure that was as cohesive as maybe we could have made it with a little bit more time, but do you feel like you have enough direction on what
Yeah,
to reconsider and bring back to us at some future date?
I think because we've got 7 people here listening, we can probably pull that together. Desmond's giving me a look, so I'll invite him up to the microphone if he wants to clarify anything. But I think just the phase, I think, we can talk about bringing a phase back to you for discussion, but that could prove challenging. I think we would bring, first thing, it sounds like the easiest thing is the building and engineering piece.
100%.
And then maybe we could bundle the planning and special event together and come back at a subsequent meeting for that. So, see, 7 years, 7 sets of ears.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, apologize for interrupting. Another thing that the staff might need to do ahead of all that is to address the mandatory 100% requirements in many of those fees in Chapter 3.5 of the municipal code. So what I'm hearing is
Categorize the 100% a little bit more carefully.
well, maybe adjust them to reflect council decision when council adopt fees. You have your priorities. You know what fees should be recovered lower, less because of community benefit and so on and so forth. So staff might need to bring that amendment to the council earlier than
I would welcome
later.
that discussion. Yeah, so setting some floors rather than an absolute 100% recovery.
Yeah, and I mean, one idea is just to bring the recognition that you can charge up to, but not more than 100%, and that the council has discretion to adopt a lesser amount without including specifics each, essentially remove the table, give you the discretion, and we can bring that amendment back to you at the same time we bring this back to you on the 23rd of April.
Okay, and I would be ignoring my responsibility to come up with crazy ideas on the spur of the moment, but if in the end of the story we end up with a better cost recovery, so a bit more revenue, I think there is probably and has been a need to have somebody who is a specialist in historic architecture added to the planning staff or the community development department, and this might be an opportunity to match those things up.
Can I also just make one other comment, and this is just a follow-up to something that Councilmember Rohrabaugh brought up, which I thought was a good point. I've seen 3 planning commissioners in the audience tonight. I know I personally reached out to Eileen Reynolds, our planning commission chair, and then John Lane from the Historic District Commission is also here, and I reached out to them too, just to make sure they had seen it and to get their feedback. So although it didn't go to the commission specifically, I feel like, at least we have some input.
So just to follow up on, what term did Nicholas use? The bifurcating the special events from, and you answered my question, from this process. I mean, what would that look like? Because it sure does seem that Parks and Rec is kind of firsthand at, obviously not issuing the permit, but knowing the impact of different events, the smaller events versus the bigger events, they're very involved in those special events. Is that something that is worthwhile looking at?
That was part of my suggestion of trying to find some streamlining opportunities.
Yeah,
Great. That could
Well,
be
we'll
one.
take a look at that with all of the comments we've heard tonight and discuss with Elaine, what makes sense, how to, we can bring some options back to you for that.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to close the discussion on that item and move us to council requests for future agenda items. Do we have any new requests for future agenda items? Ms. Rodriguez?
I don't have any.
Okay. Ms. Rohrabaugh?
Nope.
Okay. White K?
No.
Nothing new? Sarah? Okay, I don't have anything either. Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The Twin Lakes Food Bank is calling for community support as it faces a 30% surge in demand for assistance coupled with a decline in food donations over the past year. The food bank is holding a springtime emergency food drive as its shelves are nearly empty. The most needed items include canned stew, chili, raviolis, soup, canned tuna, and chicken and tomato products. Join the City of Folsom for its Earth Day celebration on Saturday, April 20th. This free family-friendly event brings the community together through volunteerism, fun activities, and inspiring exhibits that raise environmental awareness. Free booth space is available for vendors and exhibitors. Applications are due March 20th, and you can find out more on our website. Folsom's Environmental and Water Resources Department is continuing its planning effort to guide the management of the city's water resources over the next 50 years. The city kicked off the Water Vision project February 20th with an inaugural stakeholder meeting. The next meeting will be on Tuesday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. over at the Folsom Police Department's training room. And that's at 46 Natoma Street. And finally, space is still available in a variety of spring break camps that take place the week of March 25th, including robotics, tennis, basketball, baseball, and multi-sport. Early registration is encouraged as many of the camps fill up quickly. Please check our website or call 461-6601 with questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Excellent. Okay, any council comments?
I do. I have some. Okay, so this is partly in response to Sergeant Grunberg's comments earlier. I just want to lay out some facts here. In March of 2023, Sergeant Grunberg, a chaplain, a director of a local nonprofit, and myself took a tour of the Gathering Inn in Roseville, and because they specialize in homeless and they do a good job. And on the way back, we had a conversation about the pig count, because the pig count had just come out and it was about 20. And in the conversation in the car, I said, is it possible? Is it really somewhere close to 20? And Sergeant Gruberg had told me at the time, oh, it's probably like around 35. Sometime in April, May, I quoted him here on the dais, which he did not appreciate. And I get it. I understand that. In June of 2023, Sergeant Gruberg came before the council very upset that I had quoted him. So, I still stand on, as public officials, as public servants, what we say and do becomes public. And that's my mindset is we are public servants, and what we say and do that's what it is. He came upset. I was really actually quite surprised that him getting upset would result in him coming before the council. I come from a place where if I upset somebody or if somebody upsets me, I want to have that conversation with them in private to understand what we could do to resolve the problem. The following day, I called Chief and said, Chief, can we have a meeting between Sergeant Grunberg, Officer Jones, Chief, and myself? And we sat down and had a conversation about what had taken place. And I thought at that point we had settled things and understood where we were coming from. Evidently, the topic was brought up again today, and which is, again, I think a little concerning that this conversation could have taken place more so in private, but there is some animosity that is evidently behind all this issue. I am running for Sacramento County Supervisor, and I'm sharing this because it was brought up earlier today. Homelessness is the #1 issue. Absolutely. At this point right now, there's no one taking the bulls by the horn when it comes to homelessness, and it is the county's responsibility. And I have been very immersed in homelessness since I took office in January of 2021. I understand the issue. I understand the impact to the county. I understand the impact to the city of Folsom. What we're seeing here is a result of decisions that are made on the much bigger scale. So in April, May of 2023, City of Sacramento created what is the IMT team. Hold on a second. Give me a sec. The IMT team is the incident management team. And what they do is they do cleanups of certain areas. They'll go in, they'll start giving notices and warnings, and then they go do major cleanups. At that point, we started seeing a much more major influx of transient and homelessness that took place, which is affecting the entire, all the cities throughout Sacramento County. So the issue is definitely something that I am very well aware of. We cannot continue to work in silos. The city of Folsom cannot continue to do what it does and does a great job and then only be impacted by another 200 to 400 individuals who have been displaced from their encampments. The current pig count for Folsom estimated at about 120 people. The IMT team in Sacramento continues to do what it does, and we see the influx. But until someone takes the bulls by the horn and really leads it, and that was part of my campaign slogan, I stand behind it. I know that I could do something about it. With the city of Folsom, one of the questions that came up is, what are you currently doing for homelessness? Well, I still meet with the Folsom Alliance for the Unhoused. It is all of the local nonprofits that meet together, that come together and provide information about what they're doing, what they're seeing, and data. And then this is the message I want to leave here. I think, regardless of where emotions are right now, I am pro-blue. I am pro-public safety. I am very interested and will do something about homelessness should I get elected to the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, but I'm not going to leave here tonight with the question of my commitment to public safety and to do something about homelessness. And that is it. Thank you.
Very good. Mrs. Rohrbach.
Yes, so I won't be here in 2 weeks for our riveting discussion on our sales tax. I will be out of town, and unless for city business in Monterey, at the ICSC conference, working on economic development issues. I have about 10 meetings that day, so, and a dinner. So if I can get on, I will, but I think I'm, right now I'm not able to move things around yet. But so I will miss the sales tax conversation, not because I don't want to be here. So I just want to make that clear.
We
because that might
appreciate
come out.
that hard work at ICSC. It's important.
Thank you. But you know, I just from what I just heard, I just want to appreciate the officers and the residents that came in. They're no longer in here, or yeah, I don't think they're in here anymore. I appreciate that they're boots on the ground. They see the real problems. They understand the situations, and for them to come and speak at council, having to do it several times within just a few months is not easy for them. I'm sure of it. Just watching their faces, they're passionate about what they do, and thank goodness we have them. So I just want to appreciate our Folsom Police Department for everything that you do to tackle this problem. It is continuing to grow, and you know, hopefully this budget cycle we can get you some more resources to tackle that head on. Words don't make a difference in this anymore. So really, it's going to take some action from this council. But just to say, I really appreciate all the work you do. So thank you. All the work the whole city does, actually, and thank you for the study and all of that.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Mr. Chalmchella.
I was at Sacarty, thank you. And,
Yeah, thank you very much for pinch hitting for me. Appreciate
absolutely,
that.
and I reiterated and get some attention also on timely completing our project on Folsom Boulevard. I reiterated while thanking them, and you're committing to finish that project on time, and they all agreed, nodding their head. So it's appreciating, and at the same time getting some commitment, because Folsom Boulevard is the busiest boulevard in our town, and right now it's only 2 lanes open. So that's a good one. And also Cable Commission, you know, I was the chairman until last one. We introduced a few things, probably, Elaine, some new things may be coming from the Cable Commission to disseminate to the public. If you have a cable issues with your service provider, Comcast, AT&T, there is a body who can address that one. We want to communicate that one and more. So I requested, and I think the entire board agreed that let's the agencies to disseminate that information, because they are our face of the people. And also we introduced, because you know, lack of skill set, we introduced the scholarship programs to the youth who can do them. Videography and photography, kind of. Just introduce a few things before I left that chair position there, and unanimously agreed by the board. And also we were on a 2x2 school district and city council. We want to make sure, you know, the south of 50 schools are in a continuous discussion. We don't want to lose track of that one. And Anna and I, you know, we both asked a few questions. We want to make sure how the current funding and you know, various questions on that one. So it is still live. Anna, you're more than happy to add anything you want.
I would. Thank you for bringing that up, the 2x2. So I asked specifically, we had an agenda item to ask what would the process would be for us to have a workshop around if the district did split, what would that mean for the debt service on Folsom Ranch, particularly because they would have 2 elementaries, and then where would the boundaries be if the service center went to Folsom Ranch or went to Rancho? It could go up, I think, like 400 or 500% or something like that. And so that could be cost prohibitive for Folsom Ranch to move forward with the high school, and maybe even in support of a split. So that would be at the desire of the city to put a workshop together. It doesn't have to come from the council, but I think that's something that we might want to consider. If Rancho continues to move forward, we might want to look at providing a workshop for Folsom Ranch, especially what that debt service would mean to them in their yearly budget, because it's quite a bit. So that it'll be future as we find out what Rancho is moving forward with. But the school district is staying neutral on the issue, and it's going to be dependent on what, again, Folsom Ranch, or not Folsom Ranch, Rancho Cordova does. So we'll just kind of wait and see, but be prepared.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. And the last one, clock tower is working. I want to thank, I know it's so many people ask, clock tower is the face of our town. That always shows 3 hours, 30 minutes. Thank you again. The last one, but not least, I know we always talk about the sales tax revenue not going as expected. I was asking our finance director and city manager, we know, what to buy, how to buy internet, and how much we can afford, those kind of general questions. But out of those, which one is the major factor? Taking 80% of the reason buying online, I'm just making up here, online is causing the sales tax revenue is not going as expected. At least we can go back. I think I casually, bounced this idea with the mayor. We need to get back and do the more slogan or communication, shop local. And that communication is not just putting on our flyers, putting on our websites, reaching out to the way I think we did during the COVID time, HOAs, Homeowners Association, through them disseminate. This is the reason why the sales tax is, at least changing the behavior of the people. And going through the nonprofits and faith-based, whatever it takes to send that message to the people, because you are hitting the button on Amazon.com or whatever the online, that's the reason why the sales tax is not going as expected. So in order to go through, at least we are getting some facts from the consultants, see whether we can increase the sales tax from where it is to a little bit up. So Mayor, with that, thank you again, and everything is wonderful.
Excellent, thank you.
Just one thing to report out. As you remember, a couple meetings ago, our council made a recommendation to the Sacramento-Placerville Transportation Corridor, JPA, which is the government entity that owns the right-of-way for the railroad tracks. We made a recommendation to them to extend or do a new license agreement with PSVRR for 7 years. So we had a JPA meeting yesterday. There is general support for that, but Supervisor Hume, who represents Sacramento County on the JPA board, said he is starting his stopwatch. He will not support anything after 7 years. He will not support an at-grade crossing when White Rock Road becomes the Capital Southeast Connector, and he will not support using taxpayer dollars to fund a grade separation. Keep in mind that when White Rock Road is realigned to become the Capital Southeast Connector, it will be in Sacramento County, which means that if the JPA or whoever wants to have that at-grade crossing through White Rock, the County of Sacramento has to be on board. And at this point,
Or are
their
you
representative to
suggesting
the
an
JPA
annexation?
is not on board. No, I'm not suggesting that. So anyway, just want to let you know where that stands. So, we're going to have to, start dealing with reality and think creatively about where PSVRR can operate, assuming they will not be able to get over, under, across the Capital Southeast Connector.
A challenge in the future. Okay, a couple of things. The Land Use Committee of SACOG met last week, and we had what I think was a pretty interesting presentation on 2 topics. The first was a real estate study that is partially informing the decisions that will be made for the MTP SES, more lovingly referred to as the blueprint. That is being updated. That is a region-wide planning effort to try and identify the most likely growth patterns in the 6-county region of Yolo, Sutter, Yuba, Placer, El Dorado, and Sacramento counties. So that is afoot if you're interested in the fact that houses are getting smaller as they become more and more expensive a little bit at a time. That was an interesting factoid that dropped out of that study, but it's interesting to see what the mix of types of housing that the market is seeking right now. So buyers are looking for slightly different things today than in the past. The other presentation was from RUCS, which is the Rural Urban, can't remember what the acronym stands for exactly, but effectively it's the collection of farm bureaus throughout the six-county region. And I was reminded of an interesting fact about our region, that we produce over $2.5 billion at wholesale cost of produce every year here in those 6 counties. And the processed value of that is something north of $10 billion. So it is, by pretty wide margin, the largest industry in the region. And then the last thing I will just end with, the very talented students of Folsom High School and Vista Del Lago are putting on a play and a musical. Both are running from the 14th to the 23rd. Get your tickets now. Folsom High is putting on a performance of Romeo and Juliet. And Vista Del Lago's students are putting on a performance of a chorus line. So I will say in closing that I expect both of them to be singularly sensational. And we are adjourned.